Okay. I remember to hit record this time.
It's
Okay.
fantastic.
That's a very important thing. Okay. How you doing, sir? Happy New Year. We're back.
Happy New Year to you, Script. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you back here. Yeah, we were going to do this show about 3 weeks ago, but fortunately I had to address an emergency. But we're all sorted out now, and things are kind of getting back into the swing of things. And I'm glad to have you here, especially to start the year off with a script like this one. I think this will make for a great conversation. But
It is a good conversation script.
yes,
That is for sure.
how are the holidays for you? How are they going?
They're going good. Obviously, it's always good to spend time with the family. Got to see like the extended family.
Hmm.
Good Christmas time. New Year's is never a big deal for me. Just go to bed, and go to sleep. I don't think I've stayed up till midnight for a long time.
Yeah, well, for me for the particulars of New Year's, yes, it's been a while since I've had to stay up. Like the holiday seasons for me after the getting the emergency addressed, which everybody is fine for, it became nothing but like just food every day leading up to Christmas, in between Christmas and New Year's, and then ending it after New Year's. I must have put on at least 20 pounds. Just everybody eating, celebrating, lots of fun. Like we went out with 2025 with a really high note, which is great. Um, and for I don't know about you, sir, but for me on the screenwriting side of things, the work has just been kind of like adding up, which is fantastic. I'm trying to make sure I balance the schedule out because I don't want to be turning in less than stellar work because I'm taking every job out there. But yeah, it's looking to be good. It's looking like we've got an interesting year ahead of us, especially on the screenplay wise, because this year, big thing. Like, I mean, we can make the announcement, but Madden is coming out Thanksgiving this year.
Hmm.
We're going to be
Got our
doing it.
first teaser for that.
We got our first
Just
teaser.
And my God, did Nick Cage look terrible?
Yes, he did. But we're going to be covering this show. It won't be exactly Thanksgiving Day weekend because, of course, I want to respect everybody from doing that. But probably the week after, now that it's been when it's after it's out and everybody's watched it, we'll be talking script comparison. Did David O. Russell improve the script from when we first covered it on the very first episode, or did he really screw up something that could have potentially been amazing? We literally get to see the conception to birth of a film project over the course
I
of this
know
show.
it's wild because that was the first script covered. I know that I wasn't the official co-host, but we did an add-on show.
Yep, did a few because everybody really wanted to talk about Madden, and I'm like, that's awesome.
If anything, it shows how much of a beloved icon he was, which is why if you're gonna do a biopic on something where people had that much invested in their own opinions of who he was,
Hmm.
you best come correct. Like I think casting Nick Cage was. I know that he's used Nick Cage in some of his previous work.
Hmm.
Because what did he do? Didn't he do the one where he was playing the screenwriters? That was one of his
There's
movies.
adaptation. I don't know if that was David O. Russell, but it might have been.
I thought it was. Maybe I was thinking of somebody else. But I thought that was one of his David O. Russell, who for a few years had been, I think, partially canceled due to
Something.
some on-set behavior issues.
He was definitely the type of director that did not have control of his set, and as a result, the way he responded to not having control usually puts you into a bad spot. That's basically how it works. But let's see. He did the Three Kings, I Heart the Huckabees, Soldier Pay, and then 6 years he was kind of like persona non grata until he did The Fighter, and then Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, Accidental Love, Joy. Then he did Pat. Then he was also somewhat canceled again because he didn't do anything until Amsterdam in 2022, and now he's got four things
I,
on the
I
rise.
will say, I know that's why Christian Bale works with him all the time.
Yeah.
But if you're an actor and you're chasing respect and or nominations, he gets you nominations. Like,
He
yeah, I
knows.
mean, it's
Oh
he
yeah.
knows how to work that system, it's a this is where there's directors who are box office talented.
Hmm.
There's directors who are like, or auteur talented, like Begonia with Emma Stone. Like that
Hmm.
director is 100% like appealing to the fringy like film student type
Well,
auteur
he
audience.
appeals to that audience, and that audience is actually like considered a fake and authentic audience. But he appeals to the people that like experimentation, and something different, and not boilerplate stuff. And that's that gets polluted by the people who are like, oh, it's artsy, so I'm going to like it because it's artsy. It's like the same type of people who think every movie that's nominated for an Oscar is worthy of that nomination, regardless of, of any other objective application to it. And then there's the people that just love movies and have a very critical eye, and they're like, oh yeah, I know what he's doing. I like that stuff, and then I don't like this stuff of his or what have you. Yeah, it's all over. Auteurist directors. They're they give some spice to the film. They also get a lot of people talking, but then you also have your actors directors. So like that's like
That's where I was gonna go with David O. Russell. Like he is the kind of director who like almost spotlights your performance. Like he
yeah,
gives you like think if you think of the movies like American Hustle,
yeah.
Silver Lining Playbook, they are note perfect Oscar performances where they are just you as an actor on display, being able to do range, eat, chew up scenery, do like all the things that you want to check those boxes for the Screen Actors Guild because
Hmm.
they're the biggest voting block to feel like, man, that was a really stellar performance that I saw. So I'm gonna nominate this person.
Oh yeah. Well, one part with David O. Russell that's a little that he does have an issue with is that when he showcases his talent, and you can see this especially in American Hustle, he'll focus mostly on one or two actors, and then everyone else around them does not have the same energy going through. But if you compare him to, say, Steven Spielberg, early Steven Spielberg especially, every actor that Spielberg captures has some sort of impact going on within the scene and then the overall film. Like Jaws is a great example of this. Every character in that movie feels like they belong there, and every actor feels like they're giving 110%. Every actor feels like they're in sync. When you're looking at American Hustle, Bale knows what's going on, and there's a couple of supporting characters that are just there to facilitate Bale, and it feels like okay, that's not servicing the story, that's servicing the actor. But again, to your point, that performance definitely allows a lot of focus to go on to getting a nomination, especially not just in the Academy but also Golden Globes and a few other areas there. And David knows how to do that for an actor. And if you don't cooperate with him and what he wants, that's when you get the stories of he's not communicative. and and having known a couple of assistant directors that have worked with him, yeah, he does. He's not the most. He's not the type of guy that does a lot of planning on the things a director should plan on. He focuses on a handful of stuff that he wants to do, and then he defers a bunch of the other responsibilities to the department heads somewhat appropriately, but the communication between them and then to the supporting cast and whatnot is almost non-existent. And then when he calls a cut and he yells at an actor for not doing what he presumes the actor should know, but has never communicated to the actor what to do, yeah, that causes problems. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing some of the stories that are going to come out of Madden over the next few months because they're gonna leak if there are some troubles on set. Always comes to that way, but but
Yeah, so that'll be really interesting to see. It is really fun, and I thank you for the opportunity to be part of this, where you can, from our side, like this is the first time
mhm.
in my experience, like covering things or talking about stuff on YouTube or wherever, where I get to have seen something from the scaffolding stage, like from the architecture stage, and then see how they're filling it in and figuring out whether, like you said, did they like do a full tear down of these plans and be like, okay, that's a great like concept you've got there. So what are we going to keep? We're going to keep the name Madden, and then we're going to rebuild it all.
You're gonna have it focus more on Thanksgiving and the turducken.
Yep. By the way, like from that teaser trailer, there is nothing in there that would match what we, and this is in my opinion, what we got from the initial script.
Yeah.
They definitely, like, if you people remember my commentary on it, talking about how Al Davis was like emotionally like destroyed when John Madden retired, and that was completely different than the script where they had him being an asshole who fired John Madden. And you can see that Christian Bale in the lines that they put in the teaser is the true, Al Davis, who's like, John Madden's the greatest football coach of all time. Like he's genuinely upset
Yeah.
that John Madden would be leaving. And I was like, thank God somebody in that process was like, hold up, we need to get some basic things right, or we're gonna get destroyed when this movie comes out.
So, yeah. So I mean, we're gonna have to do like a countdown to it. Like, to heck with that Avengers Doomsday countdown. Let's do the countdown to Madden. That's a real one. I wonder if I can set up a timer live on YouTube that just counts down until we talk about that movie. That'd be something cool. It's about 290 days away, right?
Yep. Is Amazon, because I think it's going through Amazon MGM, right?
Yeah, it's Amazon Prime, MGM. It's a streaming debut, which
Oh, they're not. Yeah, they're not going to theaters.
for
even
now
to
they're not going to
qualify it?
theaters. I think I'll put it this way: if Amazon MGM put a Super Bowl commercial for Madden on, and it gets enough buzz, they're dropping a limited theatrical window. They'd have to. It's just too much. Excuse me, too much easy domestic money.
Well, not just the domestic money. I mean, I know that it's not their biggest concern, but again, we just talked about how David O. Russell has a very strong track record of getting people nominated.
That's
If the
right.
performances are strong, supporting actors, I mean, I don't know how much Christian Bale is in it, but that's Al Davis. That could be one of those, he's in it for 20 minutes, but he gets a supporting actor nomination kind of roles. If the performances are strong, I would think that they'd at least do a limited run, maybe. I mean, because what is the rules now? It still has to go to a theater before it can go to streaming for at least a weekend, right?
Something like that. I mean, first of all, it has to start in theaters first, and then it has to be in theaters, I think, for 2 weekends in order to qualify for Academy nomination.
Yeah, because I know they had relaxed the rules during the COVID years
Yep.
slightly, but I think they're back to the old ways, where it actually has to at least have a multi-week run in New York and LA, or two major theater cities.
Two major, major theater series. So you have New York, LA, Chicago. Technically counts because of its population.
I think DC is one of the one that's qualifies too.
I think
Because I only say that because I think there was the American, the one that does the AFI, the American
American
Film
Film
Institute.
Institute. Yeah.
I think it's based out of DC because or at least they have a big location there because of how Congress designates movies.
Yeah, they have the
for,
Library of Congress where movies
they
are
have-
archived and preserved. Yep.
Yes. So I think there's I feel like they've done stuff where New York, DC, I think that DC's in the list of qualifying cities because I think at least some documentaries started here that ended up getting nominated.
I think you're right, but we'll have to wait and see on that regard. MGM and Amazon, oddly enough, even though they have some mixed stuff with the obvious duds out there, a lot of their lower tier, like the things they don't heavily advertise, some of their shows are actually pretty decent. There's decent attempts. So I would say peruse those guys along with Hulu, and dig deeper into Netflix. Try to break their algorithm to find some some interesting talent because it's kind of peppering through. And this year is probably going to be the lowest Academy Awards season we've ever had, because this is the first year where the new rules apply. And then I can probably assure you with those ratings drops, because again, it's going to be streaming primarily. ABC doesn't have it. There's a chance that a lot of those new rules they implemented will be reversed, and then I don't know if they'll be reversed quick enough for the year after, for 2027, but definitely for 2028. There's already rumbles going on about that, as some nomination decisions are being a lot harder to nail down than they previously expected. So, with that beautiful 15-minute catch-up intro, let's get started with this week's script, shall we, little Chad?
Yeah, I think this is a good spot to go ahead and get into this whole thing.
All right. Excuse me. Welcome to Scripts on Saturdays, the only screenplay review show on the interwebs discussing scripts both professional and amateur, circulating around Hollywood, giving you, the TV and movie-going audience, a behind-the-scenes and inside track on what writers are pushing and what producers are buying. I'm your host, the Script Doctor, and joining me this week is Lil Chad of the Ascendant Art Podcast. So happy to have you here, especially for this one, because there's lots to talk about. We are reviewing Old Souls this week. Came in number 40 on the 2024 blacklist. Is written by Hannah Stoddard and Jenny Ulmer, who were staff writers on a Hulu television show that I thought was pretty good, but sadly didn't continue on, called Reboot. Not to be confused with the awesome computer animated series of the same title. This one was a different comedy. And Old Souls is as follows. A trio of sassy, elderly women receive a unique offer from death for a week of youth in exchange for their lives. Chad, please share with us the synopsis for Old Souls.
All right, the synopsis. 90-year-old Janet, regretting forsaking her fashion dreams for family, strikes a deal with death for a week's youth alongside her sassy friends. Rejuvenated, they battle lost identities, unresolved regrets, and intrusive kin. But after reliving youth, will they contentedly surrender their souls or defy eternal damnation?
All right, that's right.
I will say,
yeah?
of all the scripts outside, I like when the synopsis and line actually fit what we read, because we've had a few where it's like, what the hell did they synopsis in here? Because that wasn't what we were reading. So.
I know, because sometimes I'll get the synopsis and then I'll okay, that's what they want to put up, we'll put it. And sometimes I won't get one at all and I'll write it, which is why it's way more in sync than with what the script is than what they provide. So yeah, it's this one is a lot closer to what's going on in there. So yeah, this is clearly supposed to be a comedy. What were your first impressions about the first act of the script, Chad?
All right, where to begin? We have the math ain't mathin', for to use the colloquialisms of the youth here.
Yep.
Because that's one of the first things in the first bit of the script. We have what are supposed to be 80 and 90-year-old women talking like they're full-on millennial Gen Z. No.
Yeah.
No.
Again, the context is that these are 80 or 90-year-old women, which means they were senior citizens in the 90s. At the youngest, they were senior citizens in the 90s, so in the 60s. And they talk with some pretty foul colloquial language that doesn't really emulate the era, especially of where their prime lexicon would have developed, which would have been 70s and 80s, or 70s. Yeah.
And there's another thing that gets me, and this is relevant for later in the script. Our primary lead, because it's a trio, and you could argue that each of them are kind of co-leads, but Janet is really the primary lead. She's supposed to be about 90. They mention it several times, that almost 90, just about 90. I'm not quite sure where the rounding is, but she's close enough that 90 is what we're working with as the number for her.
Mm-hmm.
Her daughter is listed as in her 50s,
Yes.
and her daughter's daughter,
Is in her
her
30s.
granddaughter, is in her 30s. What this tells me is that Janet did not have this daughter young.
Yes.
Like Janet was probably in her mid to late 30s, possibly even in her right at 40 when she had her daughter,
Right.
which is why it really bothers me where they go with the script because it is almost like as anybody who works or who's had a situation where they're trying to have children at that age bracket, it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like fertility within women drops tremendously.
Well, it drops
And
by a
they're,
half percent, which is still a
yeah,
lot.
no, but every year over a certain year.
Yeah,
Like
it escalates. Yeah, it's
I think that half percent drop starts like when they're 22 or something, 23. Like as they every year you get older, that fertility possibility
oh no,
drops down.
it's once you cross, I think, into 30s, it's 0.5%, and then up to 40, it's 0.5%. Then as you get to 45, that's just kind of it. Just gosh, what is the word I'm looking? Exponentially adds up until
Yeah.
menopause hits. So it's like there's this window where it just goes rampant speed.
Yeah.
Towards the end.
So to me, the idea that she would have had to consciously desire and want a child for the most part, given her age level, like she would have been having this child in an era where birth control would have been readily available. There's all like basically my point is like it was a situation where she had choices, and she's like because her character arc through this whole script is one where that's a very relevant thing to keep in mind, and it takes me out of it again because their ages don't fit where this would be somebody who feels that kind of regret.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Here's the other thing. We later meet Margaret's husband, who's described as in his 70s. So we have. So I think that they screwed up with their revisions of the script because if Margaret were in her like late 60s, early 70s, kind of lines up a lot better. A lot better. Because then you could argue Margaret had her kid at 35, and now her Margaret's kid Haley is 35, and that
it also 70. Yes, especially with because the active conflict mentally for Janet, and this is established very early in the script. I think in that first 20 pages ish was that she worked as a designer.
Yes.
That she gave up work as a designer to have her child, and then never went back to that work, even though she had originally intended to. It works much better logistically if that happened in her early 20s than if it happened in her mid 30s to like 40.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, before we get too far ahead of there, it just comes down to the writers are trying to put in extreme ages to have decades of regret, but they're not thinking about the overall context of how that works to the premise that they're trying to push. Because Janet, as she's described, and this part does annoy me, is when they lean too heavily on other familiar references in order to get across an image. But they describe Janet as Sophia from the Golden Girls, but with a dirtier mouth. And I have to say, nobody under 30 is really going to be fully aware of the Golden Girls unless you are really searching high and low for some obscure television to binge. Because that was a huge sitcom, 80s and 90s. But right now, the trends for the youth, it's still The Office and Friends. Like it's really hard to get into anything prior to the Friends debuting that was on the air to watch. Like Cosby Show is the biggest show in the world. I don't know anybody under 30 that watches the Cosby Show. And it
helps that they've memory hold the show due to reasons.
to a degree, but what's funny is there's some of the rights holders of the show, it's outside of the main star, constantly put clips all over like the social medias of really funny, brilliant scenes, especially with the kids and Bill or Heathcliff's character and his wife, and they trend for a second and then they just blink out of existence, right? So yeah, and for this part here, when you have a writer that says, "I'm just going to take this," I want you to understand it's this character from a famous television show that they probably watched when they were teenagers, or sorry, not teenagers, when they were children, because these women writers, they're definitely mid-30s, and they would have been toddlers when the show debuted, and if they were at home and they're watching daytime television with their parents, Golden Girls was on at like 2 o'clock, in the afternoon. The rerun stuff, and then the new shows would be a little bit later in the day.
I also don't think they understand, it shows their age because I'm old enough to remember that show legitimately.
Yes.
And the ages of the characters on that show,
We're in their
people
50s
don't
and
understand.
60s. Yeah.
We're in their late 50s to 60s, and that's why Estelle Getty, who was one of the characters' mothers, was the one in their 80s, and that is the one they reference.
And she was the youngest cast member on that show,
which is hilarious.
Yeah.
She was, and they put her in makeup, and she was the youngest of the ones.
She was
on that show.
She is like,
just as an example.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, as a proof of that, like, look at the fact that Betty White, Golden Girls was in the late 80s to early 90s. And Betty White lived another 30 plus years after that.
Yep.
She was not like 70 at the time, 80 at the time.
Exactly. You have to remember, like, Golden Girls, when it debuted, was only 30 years after a lot of these actors had started working in their early 20s.
Yep.
On top of that, Estelle Getty's, like her character Sophia, was hit so hard on that show because a lot of people knew women who were tall, confident, statuesque, that when they hit that certain age, they just started to shrivel up and get shorter, but they didn't change their personalities. And one of my friends has a grandmother that was just like that. When she was growing up, her grandmother was like 5'9", and then as she got closer to 70, she shrunk down to 5'1". But she didn't have a hunch to her back or anything. Everything just got smaller, as if she was like in a shrinking machine, or he dehydrated her out on the beach or something. I don't know, but she still had the attitude of a very tall and an assertive woman, and always made her a heck of a riot to be around. And the thing is, the writing team, this is a writing team, so you have two people looking at this character description saying, yeah, that's good enough. It's like Janet, 90s Sophia from Golden Girls, but with a dirtier mouth. It's very effective, but it's a crutch. It's using another show as a crutch. And they
are, and the Golden Girls ripoff goes beyond that, because they've effectively taken the three leads of Golden Girls.
They have.
And made them the three leads of this movie. Because we've got Nina, who is the Betty White character.
Right.
Kay, who is the Blanche. Yes. And then Janet, who I know they said Sophia, but she's
B. Arthur.
She's B. Arthur's character, which is the grumpy harumph, like one.
Because Sophia was not grumpy; she was just she was different. Yeah.
Whereas B. Arthur was just grumpy all the time, and that's what Janet is. Janet's just grumpy about everything.
Yeah.
Kay, like when you get your introduction to Kay, it's she F's anything that moves.
Yes.
Even in her advanced old age, she's just down DF, like DTF. That would be her most likely to DTF. It would be her like thing to not have to curse a lot on your show.
Right.
And they are hyper exaggerations of the Golden Girls characters. In fact, I think because I've seen people who kind of talk this, like because everybody on the internet has theories, and there's people who are convinced that Betty White's character was lesbian.
Oh,
like closeted.
oh, but I
Yep.
thought she had
And
I thought she had a couple of kids in that show.
she did, but that doesn't mean, I'm telling you, like
Right?
this
Yeah.
is, the through the millennial paradigm. Of course, she was just living the patriarchal slavery that she was, whatever, whatever. There are
Right.
people who think, so
People who think
Nina,
that. Yeah.
congratulations, that's your story arc. Spoiler.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no, it's okay. That's one of the biggest throwaways here because, yeah, you basically are like saying we're lifting the character archetypes of the Golden Girls, giving them new names, and we're not just accelerating their age by another 20 years and throwing them in a nursing home as opposed to the fact that they were just living together in a home in Florida. Now, here's the other thing that was kind of weird. So,
By the way, the nursing home name is so patently offensive.
Next Stop Heaven. Yeah.
Next Stop Heaven. Like, I would never, ever put one of my relatives in a nursing home that was named Next Stop Heaven. It's
Yeah.
like, come here to die.
I mean, that's what a nursing home is, sadly. But I would
Well,
only
around
go to
where
a
I
Next
live,
Stop
we
Heaven.
have active adult communities, is what they have.
Well, I would go to a Next Stop Heaven if it was literally a very self-aware of its name and had a lot of fun with the like the residents were just having a fun every single day type of things, like that type. Like we know you're old, we know you're gonna be passing on, but here at Next Stop Heaven, we're gonna make sure that every day is treated like it's the last day on Earth, and it's just a lot of fun. That would be something because now you're playing awareness, but this was not that type of place because like. I've pitched because I used to work in a continuing care center in high school. It was a lot of I'll put it this: it's a lot of depressing actions, and then you get these brief bits of like what the heck is going on here because and I don't know what flip is switched when you get old, but at some point there's an age where it's like, yep, married to this guy for 60 years, and both of us are now swingers in the continuing care center with all the other people. We don't care anymore. We just want to have some fun, and then that gets people into trouble. And then
I think it's by the way, that's a continuing indictment of how bad the boomers are as a generation.
well, I mean, when I was
Statistically.
doing this was prior to the boomers. This was the greatest generation. Because again, this was
Oh, well,
25
then-
years ago.
Well, then they earned it.
Then they earned. Yeah,
Thank
'cause
you for your service.
these were the parents of boomers, and yeah, it was weird. But then it'd also be really sweet. Like I remember when I was working there, my girlfriend got a summer job there, and every single resident didn't know that we were dating, but they kept on saying, "You should marry that guy," and pointing to me. And it was like, oh, they're really intuitive of what's going on here. But yeah, because like I've written like pilots to various continuing care centers, like actual comedies of real things that go on there, and not abusive stuff, which is usually I never got to see or any of that in the place I worked because it was really above board. But it was always like there was people that tried to escape, which was always funny. The interesting ways of doing that. One person did try to make a sheet rope to get out of their second story. Residence room, and they couldn't get the window open. so that was a funny one there when the person is calling for help, and they go in there, and the residential nurse is saying, "What's wrong?" It's like, "I need to open the window. It's too hot in here." And then he sees this large pile of bed sheets tied together as a rope. He's like, I'm going to take these bed sheets and replace your linens for you, and then open the window just a crack, and you're like, can't get out.
Yeah, like though that's like that would be a great comedy, like the Great Escape with the the elderly in the
Oh yeah,
care home.
there was some funny stuff. There's this one guy who wanted to leave, and one of the ways that you could have left is if you ended up becoming appeared to be so mentally distraught that you'd have to go to a different facility that has a lot different types of security, and basically they're not very smart. I'll put it to you that way, because there's been a lot of people that escaped from like left on their own volition for that. And one of the things that he would do is he would dress up in like 3 layers of winter clothing in the summer and wander around trying to convince people that he's crazy, kind of like oh god, what's his name in MASH, dressing up as a woman?
what was it? Not Radar.
Not it's not Klinger, is it either? Is it? It's
I think it's Klinger.
it might be Klinger, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was Klinger, and yeah, it's like okay, that's a funny gag, and being a student, I got to they would be very have a lot of candor with me, and I'd be like, well, why do you want to leave? It's like I don't really want to leave. I just want to leave for the day. It's like you can't go outside. It's like well, I can, but this place is responsible for me, and if I go off the grounds unsupervised and I get into an accident or something, my kids are going to sue this place. And then one guy's like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to get them to do so that they'll have a really nice nest egg. It's like, oh my God, that is messed up. So yeah, there's so much potential to go on at a nursing home or continuing care center that, sadly, like these two ladies did not do the research. I think their research was they binged Golden Girls during the pandemic, said to themselves, hey, what would happen if these were in the nursing home and they just wanted to have sex all the time? And as young people.
Speaking of, doing people wrong based on bad research, the use of Ryan Gosling as a reference, and then actually as a character in the script, given that he's been married for almost 15, 16 years, has 2 kids, and they basically boil him down to like some idiotic caricature who's too stupid to do anything. I mean, it's...
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson would be more appropriate, oddly enough.
It's just, I don't I mean, again, I guess I am clearly not the target demographic for this script, but it was so off-putting as a male reader of the script, the way they treat men in this script. And it's a running theme. Like, I mean, and I get it. They are exploring these 3 characters are pretty much on screen or on the page the entire time. It's all about them.
Yes.
Men only exist to be sex objects, literally, in this script. That's all they're there for.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like the reverse American Pie-ish in that regard to a degree, except American Pie did try to expand a little bit of depth with one of the 2 characters.
Well, they had, I mean, even American Pie you had the curly-haired blonde girl, the one who did the Russian doll.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember.
So she was, who was best friends with
the drug addict girl.
Sharknado girl, Tara Reid.
Yeah, that's the
one.
one.
Both of them actually had very distinctive non-men related like relationship with each other as friends. That was explored within the American Pie movie. And then they had and everyone just gets so hung up on that with the foreign exchange student Shannon Elizabeth.
Yeah,
they also forget that in essentially the redhead girl who was on How I Met Your Mother.
Yes. What was
the one from Buffy, Allison Hannigan, effectively manipulated the guy to get what she wanted. Like, she planned the whole thing, didn't let him on. Like, she treated him like an object. So, I mean, I'm not to say that that's a good thing, but I'm point out, like, the female characters had plenty of agency. American
agency
Pie.
through rewatch, because when you're watching the film, you're so focused on these guys and their objectification of women that you're not paying attention to what the women are doing in the story. And in this one here, you don't have that level of thought, essentially.
Yeah, whereas, and that's the problem I have. I mean, and I guess it's okay. Maybe if they hadn't used, maybe if it had just been random dude number 12. Like, who was a rich guy. Just make a nameless, faceless rich man. They're going to an art gallery. They can just do that. But by tagging it to somebody who's real, you are bringing in its baggage. You're bringing, like, and I'm sure I can guarantee you that would immediately be removed if this ever got into production, right? They'd move it to just random person.
Well, I mean, because mostly to do with the fact of the price tag for Ryan Gosling. But here's the other part, too. Actors love being able to make fun of themselves. And
I mean, he'd be going back and effectively he's saying he really is Ken from the Barbie movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, Ken was way better than the Ryan Gosling we got in this script. But
it's just, to me, this script was putting me off every
every chance it
new
could. Yeah.
like you're talking about. All right, there's scenes and there's settings and there's like
Hmm.
and this one is like sometimes things just seem to happen and sometimes things are actually trying to move forward.
There's the
But
illusion of
every
that.
yeah, it's very all right. So these were TV writers.
Yes.
It has a very TV script feel in terms of the way they're setting up scenarios and like moving from scene to scene, or I
Kind
guess
of. I
page to
mean,
page.
it's drawn out unnecessarily, which is streaming television writing, not traditional TV writing. Which, oddly enough, on the show that they worked on, they didn't have any of that. The show was formatted like a traditional television show of like the 80s or 90s, where you just get into it and you get out. You don't drag things out unnecessarily. This one here, and also to your point with regards to like celebrities, there's a famous sketch that John Barrowman did, who is of like Torchwood and Doctor Who fame, where he is caught in public driving his minivan, and in the van is his wife and 3 children. And he threatens the person that catches him, if you tell anyone about this, I will kill you. Because he's in very publicly public homosexual, but the whole joke is that he's really a straight guy, and he did that for his to advance his career. Which was also making fun of the industry, especially at that time, when if you were a talent in that particular era, if you had that lifestyle, you got a little bit more attention, not necessarily preferential treatment, but attention. So there are again, when you incorporate a real celebrity into a script, and you're kind of making fun of them, they do get pretty attracted to that. Most recently, Ice Cube, it was Ice Cube or Ice T, and Jennifer Lopez played themselves in the new Anaconda comedy, and it makes fun of who they are. So that those things get pretty celebrities like that. They do. With that being said, the opening up of this is, well, we're introduced to Janet, who's tired and old. Nina pops in just for the sake of popping in, and as they're almost starting a conversation, they can hear Kay in the room next to them having sex with a guy, and it's very quick. And Kay is very disappointed. She didn't even take off her pants all the way. And she's, of course, making lewd comments about how her organs are not what they once were, and her habits here, going through the men of the senior center, is just not fulfilling her needs. Which, very, very direct aspect. They don't like Megan. Is it Megan? Yeah, Megan is the activities director, and Margaret's her daughter. Margaret's the daughter of Janet. And then they have. You can also tell that they watched Tiger King, because they have a character called that bitch Karen. And so again, a lot of. I'll put it to you this way: I was reading the script, I was picking up every single reference they were pulling out within the last 5 years, and seeing how they threw it in here just for the sake of throwing it in here. And it did kill the illusion of trying to see an actual story, because at this point, none of them are really complaining about being old. They just don't like being told what to do, essentially. Like, the activity instructor says, we're going to do this. No, we don't want to do that. We just want to kind of like tan, relax. Kay wants to seduce another guy. Maybe even go after the hot Nurse Nick dude. And they're talking about his clavicle, which, I'm sorry, if you have one character, getting down and dirty with every guy here, she's not going to be talking about his clavicle. Same with Janet. Same thing. Like, they're not, it just doesn't make sense. It feels like a very much a disassociated behavior to the rest that's been established. Now, we get I would say the pacing of this is kind of peculiar because we get, what is it? We get like a water sports exercise thing, and this is where we find out that Nina is attracted to a woman named Gertie, but is too nervous to even approach, to say anything, which shows a little bit of a flaw. Was probably the most interesting character flaw we have among these three, because you have the whole something that is very relatable. You're attracted to someone, you want to instigate a relationship or at least explore the potential of one, but the fear of rejection kind of puts you in a state of immobility. That's interesting. How do we watch this character overcome that? No. Not really. Not for a very, very long time do we get her being pushed and challenged, and put into an uncomfortable state to say that. What else is there? The situation. Yeah, this place. I didn't really get a sense of immersion of Next Stop Heaven, of what this setting was, and the other part too is the story really kind of waddles away until like 10 pages in, when Janet goes to her room to find out that her daughter Margaret, who's in her 50s, human embodiment of "do you need hand with that?" That's how she's described. Where a better description would be devoted daughter, loves her mom, but not enough to have her live with her. Because that's the other part that raises a question to me, right? Is, okay, so why is Janet here? And why is
it's such
Margaret
an
here to
easy
help?
fix to
Yeah.
you like, and they even like maybe she's just coming has a medical condition that requires a
Full attention.
premises
Yeah.
that would be like 24/7 attention. She's not required to like be observed all the time, but if something happens, somebody needs to be there quickly.
Right. But the other option
And
would
they
be, don't make Margaret 50s, make her in her late 60s, because a late 60-year-old trying to take care of a 90-year-old is not an
year-old.
easy job.
Yeah. Or and yeah,
Especially with a
there's all
husband that's
sorts of-
70.
Yeah, like you could say, with my husband's like emphysema or a chronic pulmonary, like I've already got one I need to manage.
I'm taking care of one geriatric. I can't do two. Yeah. You think that, but Margaret's there. She's installing like LED floor lights, dim LED floor lights, because earlier on Janet tripped and fell because she couldn't see in the dark, and of course Janet. The theme of this scene that the writer's trying to get across, and I don't think they do a very good job at it, is trying to say that that Janet doesn't feel like she is at a point where she can take care of herself, because her daughter keeps coming to her rescue. But conversely, we never see Janet trying to take care of herself on her own. Like, we never see Janet trying to do something herself. Margaret comes in, "Oh, I'm installing these LED lights for you." Why? "Well, you tripped. I'm almost 90 years old. I can take care of myself." And there's no arguments like, "Well, then what are you going to do to prevent you from tripping?" It's just like, "Maybe I'll just not get up in the middle of the night." "Well, what if you have to go to the washroom?" "They put me in a diaper." Like there's no conflict here, other than the fact that Jen is, I'm 90 years old and I don't need you to take care of me. And that's not an argument.
Yep. It's, I mean, it's a poor setup for some of these things, and then what's interesting is these are not deal breakers from a script standpoint.
No.
These are do another couple pass throughs to tighten these plot points up, and they're not even ones that require a lot of pages to get through to kind of fix. You can do it very quickly, organically, in conversation. Like, when when Margaret is visiting Janet with Heidi,
Yeah.
easily work into like, "Geez, mom, I've got I can't, I can't deal with this right now." Like, it would be a completely natural statement.
It's like,
That
I'm
would
here to help you with this
settle
basic
all this
thing,
thing.
and I can't do all the
Yeah.
other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like because and it's something that people would naturally be like, "Look, I've got all this stuff going on," and you would throw out like two or three things. I can't deal with it. Can we just take care of this so that so I can not worry about you?
Yeah, like I
And
want my visits to be talks, not I'm fixing something in your home.
exactly. And that doesn't extend that scene really much at all. And it completely checks and solves that problem from a like plot point issue. I think a lot of times people discount throwaway lines as addressing plot points, but if you do it the right way, they work really good. you
Well, I
just
mean,
you just have to find a way to make it natural and not just Hermione Granger dropping exposition.
if you do a line good, it's not a throwaway. It's a very important one. Like that's the
Yeah.
other part too.
Yep.
Like if you're ever writing a script and you think, yeah, I'll just throw this line in here just as a throwaway, it's like you're doing the service not only to the character having to say that line, but to the actor who has to now make that work a lot harder because you as the writer thought, yeah, this will be a patch job. It's a band-aid solution to what I need. It's like, no, that's an opportunity for you to provide something really juicy there that works, that stands out. That's how you get movies that have quotes, that become quotable because someone said, yeah, I'm not going to turn this throwaway line into just a throwaway line. I'm going to make it stand out so that it actually has an impact on what's going on in the scene. And the dynamics that are going on here, because this is now an introduction of the three generations of the same family. We got Janet, we got Margaret, we got Heidi. Now, here's the thing that bothered me is that they introduce Heidi as 30s in her figuring it out era. It's like, you're in your 30s. Like, if you haven't figured it out by now, you're not going to. Sorry, that's just the fact of the matter of fact thing.
Your figuring it out era is used to be when you were a teenager.
Yeah, from
Maybe
from
into your
15 to
early
22.
20s.
The era with which you complete high school, secondary school, and if you want to, you go to college or you start picking up a trade or a vocation or something. Like by your early 20s, you have the arrogance to think that you know everything. And then as you get closer to 30, you realize, oh, I don't know everything, but I know exactly what I want to do. I know the goals I've got set out in my life. I know you should, at least, if you have a really good, group of friends and family that know how to nurture you to grow and not try to keep you safe all the time, you should be okay there. And the way that I look at this is that we could have had a really interesting moment with Margaret where when you describe Heidi in her 30s, still figuring it out, and Margaret is still treating Heidi like she's a teenager and then treating her mom like she's a child, then you can see the relationship that Margaret has. She feels like she's always had to step up to be the mature one in the family. And in doing so, she has impeded the growth of her daughter and is now insulting the achievements that her mother had as a mother herself. That would have been cool dynamic to see, because now you've got like middle child syndrome, except it's middle generation syndrome, I guess.
Yeah, like I'm holding up both ends of my life. Like I've got my mother I have to hold up. I've got my
daughter who's not ready for the real world
up.
because I've been spending all this time holding up like who knows what type of excuses she can make, but there's a potential here for much more depth with Margaret than what we have.
Mm-hmm. And I think it would be much more true to the generations that are involved.
Mm-hmm.
That you have the boomer, I can do I can do anything mom. You have what would probably be a Gen X child. Maybe I'm trying to think. Yeah,
35 is technically 60s. Like Gen Y. Yeah, it's like or
no. I'm talking about I'm talking about Margaret.
Oh, Margaret yeah.
Would be
Gen X.
Like she would be like first generation, like first year Gen X kind of range.
Yep.
Because they're in their 60s now.
They are. And they're starting to get very baby boomer like, I've noticed in the last year.
Yeah, so we've got so we could have boomer, X, and millennial.
Yeah, technically speaking, because because there's now a distinction again. What I've been arguing for 8 years is that the millennials started closer to 1995 than they did to 1990, and that's where you have Generation Y, the people who are stuck in between X and the millennials. They got the youthfulness of the millennials, but they had a little bit more freedom than the millennials did. And they also still remember the world before the internet, which I think is a huge distinguishing factor.
Yeah, the Xennial generation.
Yeah.
That's technically I'm in that cusp generation
Yeah,
myself.
I'm in like what's called the, because we were always told we were Generation Y because we are just after X, and we had
Yep.
more in common with Gen X than we would with the following generation. Um, and that's very true because like my girlfriend is technically millennial, and she doesn't remember the world prior to the internet. But yeah, she's also got a decent head on her shoulders, so that's the rarity here. But there's a big distinction here. Now, the one thing that I wanted to point out is, so dialogue and lexicon has not really changed when it came to how do I want to put it, formal conversation, and it hasn't changed since essentially the 1930s. We still relatively talk the same for the last 100 years. You have these pockets of fad lexicon or slang that come and go, but they never really retain as strongly. Like jive talking is not a huge thing that occurs today. You know, the stuff that we saw in blaxploitation films and in bits and pieces of the 70s with different cultural areas, that doesn't exist in the same manner. Slang changes and evolves, but it never usually becomes as mainstream as we expect it to be. However, the one thing that does change from generation to generation is the frequency of curse words in common dialogue. And it appears that it increases exponentially with every generation. A lot more cursing in the current generation than there was previously, up until a certain threshold when, you know, the people that are in the retiring age are so upset with what's going on with the youth of these days that they just start having a mouth of a sailor as well. So you have these two sides that seem to have a similar level of cursing, and yeah, I didn't get a sense that there was distinction of lexicon between these three generations of characters. Like Janet, Heidi, and Margaret all feel like it's the same person arguing with themselves. Like there's no change in voice or tone or use of different words or different adjectives or verbs. And this goes into something later where when Janet and her two friends are given of youth, everything is fine with all the communications until they go to the art scene, you know, of the town and talk to actors that are using essentially, I guess, I don't know if do people in their 20s still use Riz, or is that still just a teenager thing?
I think that I believe that is like teen to early 20s because it's on some of those YouTubers do speak in those terms.
Yeah. Gosh, we're old.
Yeah, I mean,
But
no
like,
cap.
well, like I'm trying to think back to when I was a teenager. What was the slang that we used that
Let's
hits?
see, slang. I remember coming out of grunge, going into mid '90s. Some of the terms, like trying to, like it was a lot of skater stuff, like skateboarding
Right, yeah.
slang was what was coming out.
Yeah, that was confusing for Canadians because when you say, "Hey, do you skate?" everybody's thinking like hockey, not skateboarders.
Yeah, like bro was like coming into its own
Okay.
in
Yeah.
my era. Like it was a lot of dudes like dude bro.
Dude, okay, so
dude
dude bro.
dude
So yeah,
bro
I remember
was like one
those.
of the ones was good. Like basically dude where's my car would have been our era of slang.
But that's just name replacement. It's nickname dominant as opposed to like was there a different
For I
like
remember for
car and
real.
ride had been the same thing for like 20 years by the time we started driving.
Right, we had things like for real, like
For
we
real,
said
yep,
for real a
confirmation,
lot.
yep.
Saying boo, she's my boo.
Oh,
She's
that one never made it in my area.
she's Fly.
Fly.
Fly
That's
was a
from the
big one.
70s.
Was it? Because
Yep.
it was big in the 90s.
Well, you have to also remember we have the 20-year rule and the 40-year rule. So anything that was cool 20 years ago kind of resurfaces, and anything that's cool 40 years ago also resurfaces a little bit. Um,
Let's see. There was the bomb.
that's the
Bomb
bomb.
diggity.
Yep, I remember that. That, however, went away after 9/11 because you couldn't say that near an airport or any
Yep.
building. I remember that pretty vividly, especially on my travels. Whack. That was whack. I remember that. That's for crazy.
Whack was yeah. Crack is whack,
Crack
as
is whack,
Whitney
yeah.
said.
Yeah.
I mean, so we had like to me it's like, well, the stuff we had made sense.
Well, to a degree. I
'Cause
mean,
we
Spicoli
were,
in
yeah.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I don't know what he was saying. Like, and I was. I mean, granted, it was a little before my time as a teenager, but even then, it's like, because then you also had Pauly Shore and his Nosh, and Wheeze and the Juice and stuff, but that never caught on at a giant level. It was kind of like there and went.
Yeah, that was like full on Southern, like SoCal had its
SoCal,
own
yeah.
thing. Basically, Clueless, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, as if and
Yeah, I will say Clueless depicted a type of Valley girl that did not use the word like every other word. So they're like a higher class of Valley girl compared to what I encountered too often in the real world. Yeah.
but yeah, and that was one of we talked a little before the show, like just the language usage for
Hmm.
people in their 80s and 90s, the lexicon choices. Nope, 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 nope.
Yeah, because
Didn't.
sometimes, like, here's the other part that I notice, especially with the elderly when they're around the youth, because they're looking at it from the frame of reference of a speculative frame of reference of how much do they actually know. Like, when if you're 80s and you're around a 20-year-old, like, how much do you think they actually know? And they're also they're gonna assume that I'm always been this like sweet old person, but I gotta make a connection that I used to be young and I used to be reckless. And sometimes they'd always say, like, let me tell you a story. It's a little racy, and traditional term of racy, not racist, but like on the edge, borderline, taboo. And then they would share with you that story, and you'd be like, oh wow, yeah, that is something I would have done if I was presented the same thing. They share the story, the pranks or the silly things that they did in their youth, and it's a form of relation. But the thing is, the way that they approach it and then how they describe it, it is very particular to their own vocabulary. Like they don't try to emulate what's going on. What was that movie with Robert De Niro and the High School Musical kid, who's
Yeah, where he
Zac Efron, where like
Yep.
it's like Dirty Grandpa or something like that, and he's hip with the language, so to speak, of the youth, and it just never felt authentic to me because I don't recall seeing anything where he's studying it up and trying to make it work. It's just he just knows it. It's like, okay, that. And then we have the same thing here with Kay.
just realized like my grandmother on my mother's side would have been basically this woman's age, and she would have no idea what the F you were talking about if you tried to talk that way to her. Like
Yeah.
it just like triggered me, and like nope, she would no have no idea, wouldn't understand, like would just be like, why? What are you saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a traditional dictionary here, an Oxford dictionary, and I'm holding on to it because if I do have children or grandchildren that try to speak to me with a lexicon that I don't understand, I'll just hand them this book and be like, only use the words in this book to talk to me. Because I'm not whatever that shorthand is, it's going to fade away. And what the brilliance of us being able to know how people talk from generation to generation is film and television, because it does capture the tone of dialogue at that time. Like, you go back, you watch I Love Lucy, it's easily understood today. Same with The Honeymooners. Same with any of the other television shows like Gunsmoke or Have Gun Will Travel, obviously the Westerns. You've got Little House on the Prairie, you got All in the Family, you've got Maude, you have Cheers, which started technically in 1980, but very close to the 70s when it's produced. All of those shows at that time, completely understandable today. I don't know if you have like the regular culture. There's a reason why the fad of certain lexicons don't make it into film and television in a more dominant approach. And I think that's because we always end up reverting back to, the core principles of language. And this script could have had a lot of fun with that, but they don't. They only do it in one scene. And it's really hard to structure the conversation for this script, because this script has a big fault to it, which is that it doesn't really have much of a structure. Because even in the scene where we're introduced to Margaret and Heidi, our only understanding of a want that we get out of Janet is that she wants to be left alone and have more control over her life, but she's stuck in a nursing home. And
yeah, we have all she expresses is a regret about giving up her job.
Yeah. So she has a regret of giving up her job. She wants to be left alone to take care of herself, but she's in a nursing home and she doesn't want to leave the nursing home, as far as we can tell. So we have three things that are in conflict with each other that don't really identify any sort of goals for Janet, because the question being is like, well, she gave up her job. So what prevented her from going back to work or starting her own business after her kid, left the house? Where's that conflict? Where's that story?
Yeah.
The other part too is, if she wants to be on her own and take care of herself, why isn't she trying to find a way out of this retirement home? That's a big one too.
By the way, did we, in the entire script,
mm-hmm.
I don't recall ever having Janet describe, mention, or even say the name of her husband, who was Margaret's father.
She talks around him, yeah. I can't remember.
There's it'd be, it's kind of a big thing, right? You would think if she's got this regret, the regret is always expressed in, we had you, I gave up my job. And then it's, which interesting, because then once we get to the next phase, like that being her driving regret is completely meaningless to what she's doing in her 7 days, apparently.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we, not to jump ahead, but it just turns into like, let's have 3 days of orgies.
Yeah. Which, yeah, that, again, it's also another commitment to your your writers not committing to the time window they've given themselves. So they're like, we don't know what to do, so we're just gonna write away 3 days on an orgy because it'll be funny. Could you imagine 3 days of an orgy? It's like, I can imagine it. It'd just be kind of boring.
I made a note when I was reading it, by the way, where the group is 1/3 lesbian and all bisexual, because they make a point of how even Janet and Kay
had a moment, yeah.
They're banging everything. Like now, Kay, they said bangs everything anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that would mean she's just full from the beginning bisexual. And Janet, again, because we're left to assume that she had a long-term marriage, took care of her child,
mm-hmm.
and then, never went back to work. Apparently she was married long enough. I mean, somebody had to work.
Right.
So it must have been her husband. And she lived long enough where she didn't ever go back to work. And her daughter is now married and successful and has her own child. So somebody was taking care of her for all those years. Or not, I mean, not to say that she needed someone to take. So she was living somewhere.
What was she doing with all of her free time? Like,
yeah.
Again, that's the question that drove the initial feminism before it went all crazy. Which is, all right, you've raised your kids, you've succeeded as a mom. They're independent. They're on their own. They like to talk to you, but they don't necessarily need you, like in the same way they did as a child. What do you do next? And there's a lot of free time. I know this because all of my friends' moms, my own mother, were like, yeah, they all decided to go back into the workforce, and some of them really liked it. Some of them reminded, oh yeah, I hate this, and then they just quit because they didn't need to do the job and they found something else to do. But like that's
so
a big question, right? Like,
I
what
mean,
do you
again,
do?
not to jump ahead, like the way it's always framed every time Janet talks about it, even when she's having her
Moment.
revelation, is always, it's never like, oh, I realize it was a worthwhile choice to be a mother to my child, to raise you, to make sure you were in a position to be a good child, a good parent to your own child, and a good caretaker to me in my elderly years.
Hmm.
And no. For her epiphany is, I should have had it all. I
Yeah,
should have just gone back to work. And
it should
now
have had it
you're
all, and also I should not have been so mean to my kid. And I think the other part too that would have been interesting is if, there's this, I think the writers are trying to say for Janet, she's always had this a subtle animosity towards her daughter, and it just doesn't land because we don't see any examples of Margaret as a kid, or at least any stories to have them fight over as a kid, um, when she's an adult, where Margaret's behavior led to, and Janet's need to be responsible for her kid led to her having a stop in pursuing, her fashion
Yeah, I
career.
think our only anecdote was about her not being able to go to Disneyland and then taking
A dump in a shoe, yeah.
a dump in a shoe. I was about to say pulling
Yeah.
um
Dropping a
pulling a
deuce.
Mrs.
There you go.
Depp.
If you want to do the more
Yep.
slang.
Yep.
Yeah, because that would be something like, for instance, it would be great if, I mean, it'd be great to have a story where, yeah, Janet is getting acclimated to potentially going back to the job that she quit, and then she gets a call from a teacher that Margaret has done something at school, and you as the parent have to show up and get her, and this becomes like a thing. And there's two areas you could explore. The first era is that Janet's a bad mom and she's not able to instill proper discipline in her child. The second part is that Janet's a really good mom and Margaret is terrified that she's going to be coming home alone to an empty house all the time, and so she's acting out in order to maintain Janet's attention. And
Yeah, I mean, there's so much natural conflict within, I mean, people in the human condition
mhm,
going from child to adult to elderly parent is something that all of us will if we have children, but in terms of stages of life, we all start as children, move into adulthood, and then eventually, move into being elderly, provided nothing interrupts that progression.
right,
These are natural states that every person has to contend with. It is a conflict that every person in the human condition contends with. That is it's such a natural state of conflict that you can mine for storytelling, that it is so off-putting when people just don't. Like,
well, yeah,
that the natural, like the old thing about you become your parents, and it's because you're naturally evolving as a human when you move into the role of being a parent. There are certain things that are built into your DNA as a parent about how you, like, it is now your responsibility for another human. You take that responsibility seriously. You have to feed them, clothe them, hopefully prepare them to be a productive person on this planet. And so it naturally, for the most part, moves people into a more responsible state than they might have been otherwise when they were carefree children.
yeah. I've seen
And
some people who were very reckless the moment they became a parent actually started to be responsible. um,
and it is not uncommon in the modern era that people who lived a more reckless, freewheeling life have a lot of conflict when they move, and they have, I think it's cognitive dissonance, right?
mhm.
Where they are naturally feeling instincts of being a parent, and it conflicts with their ability or wants right? Your wants and desires aren't always in unison with your responsibilities. So these are now, again, from a storytelling perspective, when you get to universal storytelling, when you break a story down to like core concepts of the human condition people can relate to, aging is such a natural one that we all deal with.
Yep.
And it's, it's silly to say it's been done to death because there's always new perspectives on it. And I won't even say that from a script standpoint, what the concept this script is dealing with isn't something that could be mined for more meaningful, even from a comedy, you know, conflict for to drive the story. But like you said, where the characters don't really have different tones, they don't really separate themselves very well.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
the writers aren't really establishing that. I don't know. It's because if they had three, it looks like they had three for to satisfy plot needs and to also check a box because I'll be honest, Nina seems to only exist in this story to be the person who didn't live their quote unquote authentic life and regrets it.
yes, and is afraid,
I
and
mean,
with the opportunity presented to her, afraid to still try to live that authentic life. Yeah.
yeah, and honestly, that I mean, from a if you take that element for like, it looks like they had that scene. And all right, so for me, there's a lot of times where you can see where a writer worked backward.
Hmm.
This writing team thought that scene with Nina at the end was incredibly powerful to them,
Yeah, I bet they
and they
did.
worked backward completely to keep that character in just so they could have that scene.
Quite possibly the case. Yeah.
I mean, thinking about it now, does that kind of ring a little true to you from a writing standpoint? Like they got in their head that we wanted this kind of scene, and then whether Nina became a new character instead of one of the other ones doing it, or what, that scene I can see was like conceived of before some of the other stuff in the script was worked out.
I think that the scene was actually conceived after the fact. I think this was a two-hander initially with Janet and Kay, and they just didn't have
Uh,
a variety, so they kind of bifurcated Janet and then gave her this sort of closeted lesbian subplot.
do you think that maybe Janet might have? You know what that may? If you're doing conflict where there was actually something where there was more, like the idea that maybe Janet's character, in addition to having turned away from her career, was also quote unquote forced to do the traditional marriage and child rearing
Hmm.
when she was in fact a lesbian,
Yeah.
is more natural for the way her character is just mad at the world
Yes. I mean,
than it is for Nina.
sure, because now you have a situation where society has put her in a position where she lost her agency, her own agency in every regard, in her career, in her love life, in the responsibilities that were thrust upon her as opposed to her making a choice. And then you have her witness a generation where all that changes because some people decide to say no to that system as opposed to capitulate. And now you have a character that's feeling incredibly angry at themselves because they didn't do the same thing. They didn't protest against something that just did not feel right for them, because of where she lived. And I'm not saying that this is a global society thing. This could be more centralized into a municipality. Because of where she lived, she was not allowed to pursue the life that she strived for because she would have been ostracized, and excommunicated, or essentially, like, blacklisted, for that, if that was at that time. And then you have her witness a generation where that all changes, where people made the risk and they did get, ostracized, blacklisted, dehumanized, witch hunts, etc., etc. But the result of it afterwards is, oh, now you have this section of people that are living their own lives, and they feel pretty happy, and here she is sitting in a nursing home with a daughter she never wanted, and possibly loves out of just general instincts, but is missing that extra, thing that parents have, that comes with the desire to have children initially, and everything is now bitter, regret, resentment, and hate. And the because Janet doesn't have that level coherently established with her, the ambiguity is now replaced with something very surface level, which is, I gave up my job to have a daughter because maybe my husband said so. And I mean, there's not much you can really do with that. It's razor thin. It skips over all the other complications of it. Yeah, I mean, it makes Janet a very thin character who's just bitter for the sake of being bitter because the writers need her to be bitter, and we're not going to give us any depth as to why she's bitter. So, because even if you're dealing with a character that's starting off not likable, if you can convey to your audience why they're unlikable, especially through like an underdog aspect where every chance they had to kind of overcome an obstacle, there was manipulations occurring around her that would force her back down, and she'd have to kind of be Sisyphus pushing that boulder up the hill constantly over and over again, to the point where she just did not have it in her anymore to continue trying to push up that boulder and gave up and now regrets it, and then has to, straighten herself out and then start pushing that boulder up a hill again. That's a story that you can kind of get behind. But we don't have that with Janet at all. She's upset that she's old. She wishes she could run again, which normal old people thing to have. But we need real conflict between her and her daughter, especially if the setup is that Margaret feels responsible for taking care of Janet, even though Janet is in a nursing home where she's supposed to be being taken care of. So play with that more. What's really going on there? These two women who wrote the script didn't give us that. And the other part too is they seem to have that I guess it's got to be a generational disassociation where there's a lot of us born between like the late 70s and early 90s where for whatever reason we still kind of feel like it's the 20th century as opposed to the 21st century. Like, is our frame of reference, we forget how much time has passed. And I think most of that has to do with the fact that aesthetically, our society has not really changed so much in the last 30 years, aside from televisions and computers getting more slim and smaller. Like, fashion is pretty much indistinguishable. I stumbled onto a television show that only made it like 10 episodes in 1998, and it looked like it was shot last year. Because the fashion was the same, the hair was the same, dialogue was relatively the same.
True. I mean, if you want to go into that matrix simulation theory, yeah, there you go. We froze your society at the turn of the 20th century.
Well, mostly through like fashion. Fashion and real estate have not really changed so much in designs or gotten really into improvement or anything that's like been landmarky. But like the only thing that we can really say is, yeah, phones have now gone from just a direct forward vocal communication device to a mini computer in your pocket. And internet is now a service throughout your entire home, operating most of your appliances if you wanted to go that route. And then on top of that, you can work from home now, so you don't have to go out. You're not commuting as much, and people are driving. Cars are still mostly designed the same, with a few exceptions. I think like Rolls-Royce and Jaguar are getting more boxy, looking less sleek. But Mercedes, Lexuses, Hondas and Hyundais and Fords are still relatively the same. Minor differences. It's a lack of style, and it's preventing us from being able to identify the decades as distinct from each other, I would say. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Do you think that's why every once in a while we be like, oh yeah, that happened. Wait, what year was that? And then you're thinking of all the landmarks, the memory landmarks of the time, and it's like, well, that could have been 2002, could have been 2012, could have been 2020. It's like, what's the real distinguishing pattern of that? Whereas, like, you can go through, television shows, and from the fashion alone and decoration of the interiors of the homes, you can easily tell what decade it is from the 50s up until the mid to late 90s. Like, it's just very distinct. Types of sofas, fridge, microwave, kitchen furniture, bedroom stuff, posters, all of that. But what is there today to distinguish that? So that's kind of troubling. And this script has that too, because they make jokes about like, oh, it was this many decades ago. Yeah, that was the 90s. Like, no, that was still 2010s. There's also a thing where Hot Nurse Nick sees an old photo of Janet and calls her like Miss America 1920. And then Janet says, 1920? What am I, 140 years old? But that means she'd have to have been born in 1920. Right? Like, when you do the math. Because, 1924 would be like, 100 years ago. But, it's all weird. It's a little off. Not exactly on bang on, but it's a little off. Because, just to think, 100 years ago was 1926. Boy. I get that. People think old is old. But this, I'll put it to you this way. We don't get anything other than, was it Janet talks to herself? Does she talk to herself and say, I wish I could, like, do this again? Do we get that type of Freaky Friday moment? I can't remember.
I think that's what, right before Betty, is it Betty? Or Brenda?
Brenda.
Because it's 90210. Right before Brenda shows up, I think there is the moment where she has like a youth is wasted kind of thing, and then Death shows up.
And a bedazzled.
With a bedazzled. Oh my god, it's such a stupid concept. Like, and then we find out that, I watch a lot of anime, so it's not foreign for me to see the concept of like death as a corporation. When we get down in there and do that. But the Brenda version of a Reaper she's not likable.
No.
And not at all. Her jokes land so flat. So flat. I'm almost like, is it purposefully, are they trying to land and like make these flat? I don't think they would.
I think they're trying to emulate what Ted Danson was doing in The Good Place. And they just didn't get it.
By the way, The Good Place, one of the most well-written
and underrated
TV
comedies, yes.
Yeah. It's well-written. I also think that it's a very successful final episode.
Yes.
Beautiful. Stranger Things guys need to like take note. It's one of the first shows that really stuck a landing in a long time. and stayed true to their characters and what they had gone through and all their growth. But getting back to Brenda is a Grim Reaper, and she's one of many, and for her own individuality, she like bedazzles things, and she's 100% like a vapid Real Housewivesy, Kendall Jenner-ish, like whatever frame of reference you want to get.
Yeah.
Like she's a Kardashian Grim Reaper.
Exactly.
Is the impression I got. That's mentally my image. So she takes our three co-leads, Nina, Kay, and Janet, to the office down in the underworld or wherever, and she makes them the offer that because they are not actually meant to die yet, that one of the ways that Reapers can get souls early, which is what gets them promotions, is to make deals where we'll give you something in exchange for letting us reap you before your time.
Yeah. Now,
so she's going to offer them 7 days.
No, she offered him like 3 days, I think, or 1 day of youth, and then
Kay
negotiates for like a year, and she's like a month, and she's like, no, like 2 days, like a month, no, a week, fine. So here's
with money and all the
money and accoutrements and everything. But here's the thing that is also kind of weird. and you kind of have to give a better context with this. And this happens a lot with especially amateur writers when they're trying to do something supernatural. When they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to treat the afterlife like it's an office job, and we're going to have, like, you know, death be an office worker, and they want a promotion. The question you have to ask is, well, what's motivating behind the promotion? Like, why is there a hierarchy to this? Because, you know, this is eternity, right? There's no reason for growth. So the only thing that we get from her is that she just Death Brenda is stuck having to reap the elderly and, sadly, little kids. And she's like, I want to reap better deaths. And it's like, why? Like, give me something tangible here. If she says, I want to reap better deaths because my heart keeps breaking when I have to take old people and children, you know,
which is, yeah, all right. So
which would be great. You know, it's like, oh, that makes sense.
It also humanizes death, so to speak, right? My roommate from college is an oncologist. You know, it's a tough job.
Yes,
but he tells me when I talk to him about how he's a radiation oncologist, so he's like, this is the easiest oncology psychologically to deal with, because you're really just managing like the radiation system and stuff. You're not really necessarily talking like the standard oncologist does the like appointments with the patient about like their diagnosis and things.
Right.
But he's like, the hardest job, the one they like his place, they can't keep people in this job. The average is about 10 to 11 months before they just leave, is pediatric oncology.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's heartbreaking.
It destroys. He's like, the people that, like, he goes, we have doctors come in and they are, you know, these are professionals. They're very aware of what is involved. They make a choice thinking that they can handle it, that they have, you know, and these are, again, they're not people who aren't aware of what goes on, but within, you know, like, it's just, even knowing exactly what you're going to be doing, the reality of watching children die day in and day out breaks people.
Yeah.
And they just can't deal with it, can't do it, and so they move on to different specialty, right? They just, people aren't built. I mean, and I agree with you, like, adding something in about how, like, especially if you're, you know, it would work really well in the context of being a very alternative, like, maybe this Kardashian type persona is something she puts on as a Reaper to try to mask
her pain, or at least make herself feel less scary when she's approaching children and elderly people.
Or because if she makes it a joke,
mm-hmm.
she doesn't have to connect with what she's doing.
Right.
And with the fact, like, where you're seeing, like, the idea of, like, on a daily basis of reaping children would be just like, it would, if these people are something that is human emotion, that would destroy you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, especially since we know in the context of the reaping, they get to talk to them after they see them after, you know. One of the, not that, you know, now that he's been canceled, it's, you know, but I really thought that was an important aspect of when Neil Gaiman created the Death character in Sandman, to make sure that Death was 100% on board with, this is my job and I'm your friend. You know, like, this is, I'm being a friend to everyone in their last moment, because if your role is to just reap and bring about and be the bringer of death, it's going to be taxing if you have emotion. So the idea of trying to, like, I will do whatever it takes to be able to reap, like, starlets who are just like ODing at parties.
You know, people who she wouldn't be disappointed to see die, like that type of thing. The other question that's raised for me is, why is there promotions for in this type of era? Because that would suggest there's retirement, and then there's also new hires. So if that's your infrastructure, the question would be like, I'm a Grim Reaper, and the reason I'm a Grim Reaper is because I've done something in during my actual life that I have to make up for, And the only way I can get out of this and cross over to a heaven is if I reap so many souls, and if the reason I do this earlier, I get promoted, I get more bigger groups or something, and then I can move my way to cross over. There's another motivation as well, because right now it's this is very superficial. I just want to get the juicy deaths, and in order for me to do that, I have to get promoted. In order for me to get promoted, I have to get souls prior to their initial time to cross over. It's boring to me. Like I don't see much room for conflict, unless they went full evil, where she's like, I want to cross over. If Death Brenda was like, she was a bad person in life, and now her punishment is to be a Grim Reaper, and she wants to cross over, and her methods to crossing over are still her enacting the horrible habits that got her to this position in the first place as a villain, makes her more interesting as a villain, makes us have possible conflicts with the characters, and also allows an opportunity for especially a character like Janet to see that if you don't kind of figure out a way to change your ways, you're going to be stuck a grumpy old curmudgeon for your entire life, and possibly even your entire afterlife. And that would be a good wake-up call and show an interesting journey, and give incitement for a character like Janet to change if she's able to have some more time on this planet to do so. Kind of a little bit of a Christmas story. Sorry, Christmas Carol. Ebenezer Scrooge tale. But no, it's a very surface level. I'm Death. I want to be promoted so that I can collect the souls of people who keep trying to go, deep diving to see the Titanic. Because she makes that joke, which I know people that worked on the documentary for that team. It's a little touchy. It just doesn't. It just feels so weak. I mean, that's basically I can say. And then the other part too is you have a contract that we don't know the details about, in the same way that you have other fun contract scenes, right? They always have these scenes where, there's this addendum in the contract here, and there's this subsection here, and it's like you're now making it up as the story is progressing, as opposed to showing us these things are established as the characters are enjoying themselves in their youth, right? Like you have to hit the conflict, and you got to go back to be like, well, this is how the contract works. So here's the basic parameters. You get 7 days to be youthful. Yeah, you'll have your money. You'll live in a hotel. You won't have any pains. You won't fart. That was a big issue with them. I don't know why, but okay. And no consequences, etc., etc. And if you frame it out correctly with dialogue and how it works, you are then implanting various ideas into your audience to understand why, when the girls are doing something and it doesn't go their way, the audience is able to make the connection through dramatic irony, like, it's because the contract stipulates you can't do that or something. And once they sign the contract, they get their week, they become youthful. The first thing they want to do, the first thing Kay wants to do is find cocaine and then find men. And Janet and Nina go shopping, essentially. And that's it. Like, that's their first day, essentially. And I have to say, like, it's boring. Did these writers really put themselves in the position of what would someone who has lived a full lifetime, do if they had a week to be in their 20s and in their prime again? What would they do? There'd definitely be indulgence, but what would be at the top of the list? How much would they try to get done in their first day? And I would speculate that they would try to pack that day with as much stuff as they humanly possibly could. And they'd definitely go to a place where they wouldn't be spending half the day in a car going from one section to another, which would be like anywhere in LA, because nothing is close by in LA. New York would be a better place because everything is on Manhattan Island, or a half-hour train ride away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a it's weird to say it's again another indicator of vapid taste, right? Like, what did we negotiate? What are we doing?
Right.
What are we getting? And then your thing, it does show that to me, it shows a lot of surface level thinking was involved in this deal. For Kay, who's allegedly like this hotshot attorney
Who apparently defended
who
Lorena Bobbitt.
Lorena Bobbitt, which by the way was where I grew up in Virginia. So
You know the story well.
I drove on the road. We all used to joke about, that's where where she threw it out.
That's where she threw. Could you imagine being like a first responder and be like, so your assignment is to go through this cornfield and you're going to look for a severed genitalia. Sorry, what? You heard me.
Yeah, it was just it wasn't a cornfield. It was just the side of a road.
Side of a
But
road,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah, it was a so and they found it and they
They
reattached
they
it.
did find it.
And it allegedly functioned. Good for him. It was. I mean, she was to say she was a hero. I think is again an indicator of personality. But
Indicator
yeah,
of personality and a very misunderstanding of the context that led up to those events.
yeah, so I made a note about like how do we like when I was reading the script, my note on their return to youth was summed up with sex, drugs, crime.
Yes. Apparently.
And that's pretty much that's what in their they are given this gift of 7 days of having their youth back, and that's what they indulge in.
It is. And
That
it's different. I'll give it that. But it's also a betrayal of the characters. And it's a betrayal of the characters in two senses, because Kay is the only one that has wants. Her want is she wants to feel young, she wants to have sex, she wants drugs. That's it. Nina, her want is not a want. She just has regret. She was a school teacher, her best friend who she may have been in a relationship with, but not really, like, just best of friends, but never getting beyond that intimacy. She never approached or made any mention of, and now she's in a retirement center, and she's attracted to this woman named Gertrude or Gertie, and she's afraid to instigate anything. And then Janet is, I didn't give up my job for being a mom. And for Nina overcoming her apprehensions, that's fine. But for Janet, she's 20 years old. She gets one scene where she talks about how a dress is not as good as it should be. And instead of modifying it herself and going somewhere where she could showcase how amazing her fashion is to try and get a job and maybe make an impact, she just dawdles around, being dragged by Kay on her hunt for drugs and sex. Like, it's very counter to what we got in the first act, as thin as it was.
Yeah, correct. To the point where even though we, with what little we learned about Janet and Nina and Kay in our first act, they are 100% all on board with the shenanigans.
Except for Nina. Nina's not really on board. She's always kind of like pulling away. Like, even when they're going shopping, she picks out and puts together an outfit she wore 60 years ago. Like a button up to her collar, not very sexy or revealing, very conservative. And yeah, that Janet and Kay kind of comment on her about that. But here's the thing that I kind of found interesting is that Nina kind of holds firm. She's like, yeah, I'm not dressing that way. It's like, oh, okay. So she's got confidence there. But when it comes to intimacy, she freezes. And I'm thinking, man, that's seeds for really good story, for a really good character story of someone who has boundaries and can defend herself. But when it comes to ways of the heart, she's completely without any tools at her disposal. There's something there to be explored. But we sadly don't get that. On their first day, yeah, they have the concierge, who I think is named Jack, right, or something, or I don't know, what's his name? Alan.
I know,
and he's clearly Alan from the concierge from 30 Rock. Like, that's who he is. Like you're again, so many pulls of other people's characters repurposed for this one here. And of course, Alan says, "Hey, we have this new. We got free tickets for this show called Shuck, and it's about corn." And they ended up going to that because they had one interesting joke, which is they want to head to the club, and when they go to the front of the club, they find out the club won't be open till 10:30 because it's now 7:30, and they're like, 10:30? That's awfully late. And I was like, wow, that's a joke. I mean, there is also a problem though. I've been to LA and those places, and there are clubs, especially high priced ones, that open at 7 o'clock and they go all the way till 4 a.m. So I guess this is what it's like. What was it? Club or Club is what they called it. That wasn't a very good joke. That was kind of lazy. I understood what they were trying to get there. It's like there are so many clubs, they're not very well creatively named. Would have been better if they went to two others that were the same way, trying to get in with lousy names, giving us a pattern as opposed to just a flippant commentary. But yeah, so they end up going to the Shucked show, and I don't remember much about what was being put on stage other than they were watching. And also, was it Nina eating the corn that would often materialize in their fridge? That was a running gag too.
Yeah, that was Nina because that comes out later when they meet the girl who has the Shucked shirt on.
Right.
And Kay's like, "Hey, you talk to her. You've got a lot in common."
Yeah, you got a lot in common. You both like corn. But yeah, so they go watch the show, and they do that to kill time before they go to the club. But Kay also has an ulterior motive, and that is, and this is something that I've seen happen in stage and in premieres, is they after the show they go out to meet the cast, and Kay is there not really to compliment them. She's looking for the person that would have the drugs, because she's like, I watched this 2 hours of these people singing and talking about corn. Someone is on cocaine in this cast. And then she finds the guy that is, and yeah, they go to the club. We have a repeat of 1980s doing drugs on the back of a toilet tank. And then this is where Kay learns about pansexuals, which, what have you, is like you sleep with anyone or anything. And Kay's like, that's what I do. And then they go at it in the bathroom. And I think the joke that they were trying to do while they were having sex is like Kay is still asking him questions about the world. And he's happy to answer them as he's, proceeding with Kay, who is really, really enjoying herself. And then at the table outside is Nina and Janet talking to, gosh, what these names are like. They have Leigh at the end, like Leigh, but they're not real first names. So I guess this is supposed to be another joke. Do you
think so.
remember
The jokes, the jokes just fell flat for me a lot. So I don't even know what was sometimes some of these, whether they were supposed to be jokes or just
because it was like it was
writing.
It was Emily, but spelled Leigh, Blazely, and Haydely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, and then they're using they're using Shugi, Pookie, Guyette. Is it Guyette? I don't know how to say what that is. And so we're supposed to have this contrast between like Janet and Nina wondering if these three women are speaking English, and they're like, I kind of am translating what's going on. And then you have this commentary where the guy that Kay is with talks about how he's like, yeah, and you can have as many partners as you want at the same time now, 5, 10, pick your poison. And Kay makes a joke. It's not just acceptable for disgusting men who justify it under the BS guise.
Oh yeah, under the patriarchy, and religion. And he's like, no, it's for everybody. It's polyamory. It's
Yeah, like, well, I mean, again, there's one faith that talks about multiple wives, at least that I can
yeah.
think of, um, and uh, and then yeah, what's it like? You guys are Sigma over there is the other phrase. Like I've never heard of that before. I even Googled it, couldn't find much on it at all.
Yeah, the again the lexicon used is it. This is an important note, and I think we've talked about it. I think previously on shows I've been on, where screenwriters need to try to find real voices for their characters, and what they had was not a real voice. It was, in fact, like a fake, like millennial, whatever
An
BS
assumption,
thing.
yeah.
You know, I mean, it's important to separate. Number one, you give your characters separate voices. Number two, give them voices that are true to the type of character they are. An almost 90-year-old woman and her friends who are also in their assuming late 80s wouldn't talk like that. It's just not something that would be done. And they just need to kind of get over. I feel again they're talking. I feel like this is the language they use
Right.
probably in their everyday lives as a writing team, and that's a-okay. That's for that to be their everyday type of language out in probably I'm assuming LA because that's the vibe I get that they'd be LA people. But the way you talk in 2025 as a person who's grown up natively and probably in your early 30s in LA is very different than someone who's 90.
Yes.
whose birth date would have been like what is that 1930, you know,
Yeah, pretty much.
1935, 1940, that they would have been a child of World War II generation before they went to war. So they're pre-boomer slightly.
The forgotten generation, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they would have been coming, they're like coming right out of the Great Depression. They're Great Depression babies. They are not going to talk like Riz and the patriarchy and all this other bullshit. Even first wave feminists didn't talk that way.
They don't.
Like
I
even
mean,
like if you go back to Gloria Steinem in the first wave feminist of the 60s, they were never using that kind of language.
no, because that wasn't even about that. Like that's the thing. I mean, it split really rapidly shortly after. But yeah, no, because it wasn't really about that. It was very much on choice.
Correct. It was that's how it was framed to be given, to be a situation to offer the choice to the women who didn't have choice otherwise.
Right. And I mean, there's some really beautiful documentaries from that era. I'd be very hesitant about the ones made today, but from that era, that shows some women being like, "Yeah, I didn't get to pick my husband," which is very weird into having the United States or Canada in the '60s. It's like my father basically said, "I'm marrying his business partner's son," and she liked the guy, but she wasn't in love with him. And yeah, when she realized that she could leave, and the thing is, her husband at the time didn't care that she left because he didn't want to marry her either. But you saw like those. I mean, I remember that story vividly, and I was like, yeah, that seems kind of weird that there'd be pockets throughout the Western world where that would happen, and it did. And then there's the other part where people are like, okay, yeah, we got women's lib, and then you started seeing the cottage industries pop up afterwards. And I mean, with any type of movement, you always have to ask yourself, well, what is the end goal? Is the end goal achievable? And yeah, do we trust in the people wanting this end goal that they're going to not move on to something else when it's done? And what's really fascinating is that when you look at certain movements from the 60s up until the late 80s, the most important people that managed to achieve the outcome of the goal left, like ended. And then the people that were either minor figureheads or supporting figureheads that kind of, helped stuff, they have this elevation within the history of their impact, but they're still doing stuff today, which makes me question how much they actually achieved in the initial cause, because, when you achieve your cause, you're done and you go away, from the center stage. You live out the life that you were looking for. And then, yeah, because I've been doing some research into this, because I was assigned a screenplay before the holidays hit about some of this stuff. And it's kind of fascinating when you see certain people in certain movements that currently today have a high stature within that movement, but at the time their stature was actually really low on the tier, and the people that were at the high statures, as soon as the movement was achieved, they left the scene. And that's pretty interesting, because now I'm thinking like, oh, okay, so when I work on this story about these characters in this particular time frame, you have this moral lesson here for us as outsiders looking in, saying, yeah, whenever you see a movement, who's the leader of it, and who's making progress towards the change, and if that change hits, pay very close attention as to who stops, participating in it because the goal is achieved, and who of those people from that goal start bringing up other causes or other things to change. And those are the ones you have to be wary of, because it's not about the cause, it's about the attention, and it's about what they gain out of it for themselves as opposed to who they are fighting for. And I'm looking forward to finishing off that script, because it's been fun researching it. But yeah, in this case here, for this one, when it comes to like Kay and Janet, we don't get a nuance to any of that, like at all. It's like, okay, they're young, and now it's just more like these writers are saying, okay, what's some fun situations we can put them in? All right, let's put them at a as an audience member watching a stage show. Okay, not very fun. Let's put them in a club and have them contrast with the club scene. And it's like, okay, premise, good. Now exploit it. What is all the things that go on to a club? How would an elderly person respond to that? Right?
Yeah. That's the other thing. You've got a complete fish out of water scenario.
And you put the fish in unfamiliar water. Like, essentially, that's what they've said.
Yeah, where the comedy, because the script is comedic in nature.
To a point.
At least it's supposed to be.
It's striving for that. That is the script.
It's striving for that. So the humor in this situation should come from the fact that you have now put, and this is anytime you get like in the more traditional what we see in Hollywood, previous is like body swap, where someone older gets into a younger body.
Yeah, the Freaky Friday thing, like with Jodie Foster.
The Freaky Friday, the vice versa when it was Judge Reinhold and
Savage.
Year's Kid.
What's Savage? Yeah, Ben Savage.
Yeah,
Brad Savage. Tom Savage, one of the Savages.
Yeah, the Savage, Fred Savage.
Fred Savage, that's the one.
Yep. And then it was funny because right around the same time they did the one with Dudley Moore and Kirk Cameron.
Right.
Anyway, the humor comes from when you take someone who, because this is a natural state of the world. As soon as you're outside of teenage years, teenage culture is such a self-contained zone.
It's really
sad.
It
goes back if it kind of goes to the conversation we had about language earlier and how we had no frame of reference as older people. Like, the humor comes from the fact that when you put any of these like older people into the younger generation, they will have no idea. Like, it should be like living in a foreign language that you have no idea how to speak.
Yes. I mean,
and there would be a lot of funny humor in that.
There would be. Well, think of it as like Austin Powers. That was a perfect example of a fish out of water. And they lean more onto behavior as opposed to lexicon. And in this case here, what we have a group of old people, well, one of which specifically, whose behavior fits right in line with the age that they desire. And
Hmm.
that feels inauthentic, or it feels inauthentic for her. But because again, when we find out that Kay, she's 104, we, which means that she was born in 1919 or maybe 1921. But either way, she would have been 40 during the sexual revolution, or in her 40s.
Yeah, she would have been. Yeah, it's Kay is like
Kay is the
crazy
exception
thing.
to something that you have difficulty trying to believe.
Kay almost becomes to me like Kay is a feminist James Bond character. And let me explain what I mean by that.
Sure.
James Bond is supposed to represent, up until recently, he was like the ideal fantasy of what a man would want to be. You're a secret agent. You get to sleep with all these beautiful women. You have no real consequences to your actions ever, right? The idea he's a teen male fantasy in personified.
Right.
Kay is like a late teens, early 20s, like radical feminist and fantasy personified. Somehow, like in her 40s, when the sexual like she seems like she was always on the pulse of every female issue, never had any issues being like the woman who just slept around, did cocaine, did whatever. Like she's living that, like she's the idealized life of what they think it should have been. Like
Yeah.
allegedly in the 60s she was banging Rasputin in St. Petersburg, like
Like
which is
she was a
let me
party girl that ended up in traveling all over the world doing all sorts of things. She was a
while at the same
lawyer.
time being a high-powered lawyer who could took no shit right from anybody.
Yeah. Yes, so it's again, both are extreme fantasies. Both have subtext of great sadness behind them. But
Well, once any real human starts looking at the story, you're like, this is not a happy life.
no, I
This
mean,
is, this isn't fulfilling.
this is a person
Like,
coping with the assignment that they're given, and it's destroying them bit by bit, taking away their humanity, all for king and country. Or in Kay's case, she's hiding any type of absence or void with sex and drugs.
exactly. And it's funny because here's the thing. I bet if we had this conversation with this writing team, they would probably have no idea that that's how it would come across if you examine that life.
Yeah.
That they can't see that this is someone living a surface life. This is not somebody with deeper virtue or values.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because this script is indicting the one character that had what should be a meaningful life by human standards, rearing a child who, by all accounts, has become a successful wife and mother herself, who has raised a child who is successful, living independently.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's a pretty that should not be something we like mock. That shouldn't be something we take away from. And this script is indicting that choice as being the worst regret of any of the characters, like right up there with Nina's.
Yeah.
Like, and so to me, the writer's world frame is so foreign to me that it made it very difficult to really even like. And we, talked a little bit like I was the absolute wrong target demo for this script.
Yeah, but even to that point, it's like I don't know if there is a real target demo for this on a scale where it could generate revenue, because I mean the premise of have you ever seen the Albert Brooks film Mother? It's
Great.
Yeah, it's got Debbie Reynolds in it. It's a great story because this is the one of a woman who, she was a great writer. She met her husband in college. She gave up writing, had a couple of kids. Both kids are kind of messed up and dependent on her. But Albert Brooks is going through a crisis, and he decides, I got to figure. The reason I have this crisis is because I've clearly got a weird relationship with my mother, and I got to figure that out in order to grow as a person. And in doing so, he finds out that the reason his mother kind of treats him and his brother the way they do is that she does have an animosity to her kids, but not as a regret for having them, but she has a kind of a chip on her shoulder to her son, who's played by Albert Brooks, because her son is the writer that is living the dream that she wanted to have, and he's not appreciating that dream. And she's upset with him for that, but doesn't tell him that. And it's only when he discovers these short stories that she wrote before he was born, and that he's blown away with how great they are, and he challenges her on that. Do you completely understand her what her life was like, and what she was, and the regrets that she has? And then on top of that, it's through her son, who says, you have to be published. Like, you got to get these out there. These are great stories. You got to keep writing. You got to go. There's nothing stopping you from going back to writing. Do that. And that's the resolution. And even though Albert Brooks hasn't solved his own problems with romance and writing, he's helped his mom, and he's feeling better about himself, and he thinks he can, proceed later. And then at the end, he meets a fan who likes his story about the character with the big hand, which is a nice little side joke about silly sci-fi writing. And and he's much more secure with talking to women now because he's done that. And then we see that his mother is typing away, writing a new story, and is a lot happier as a result of that. And she doesn't, and it's not saying that she's living with regrets of not having done this earlier. It's saying, like, I've leapt over those regrets, and I am now pursuing what I want to do because I've been encouraged to do so from someone who I thought would always never accept me as just being more than just a mom. And it's a great story. Such an underrated movie, but a wonderful one. And I mean, my advice to these writers would be, like, watch that movie, learn from one of the greats who Albert Brooks is, and I think you'd be able to fix Janet to make her a far more interesting person, because they do have this very shallow, and it is a throwaway point, which is that Margaret has bought her mother a sewing machine and donated it to the home anonymously. Well, at a secret. Like, the home knows that they did this, but Margaret hasn't told her mother that she did this to get her mom to go back into fashion. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
it's
to support like her hobby.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's why would why would Margaret not do that?
Tell her mother.
Tell her directly. Like, and the other part too is, wouldn't it have been fascinating is if when Margaret was pregnant with Haley, Margaret would be constantly saying, "Hey, Mom, make clothes for my baby girl, get back into fashion, and you have the time to do it. What's holding you back? Where is that stuff?" Like, 'cause that would have been a great conflict if it's just Margaret every time she's coming in there, she's like, "What do you do all day? Why don't you just design a dress or something?" And then Janet could say, "Well, who's going to buy something from a 90-year-old?" It's like, if it's good, it's good. Like, have that type of
What is
conflict, right?
It's just like an old writing rule, and I remember because my wife wrote a little bit, and she would tell me, like, when she was doing her work, one of the things that she would always try to keep in mind, and I think it's a good rule, is, like, never have your main conflict be something that could be addressed in a 2-minute conversation.
Right.
Like, this kind of conflict is like a 2-minute conversation away from resolution. Like, it's, because, I mean, I would think that she loves her daughter.
Yep.
And clearly, from what we learned later in the script, the daughter is supportive and, enough of her mother that she didn't have a problem, like, with her working or doing any of that stuff. She wanted her to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. So a 2-minute conversation where she expresses her frustrations or something like that, bam, you've now it's done. Like, it's, because, like, no, Mom, I really want you to keep doing stuff. Like, let's get you out there. Let's help.
Yeah,
I'll
because
be happy to get you.
there'd be great logical conflicts with regards to her age. Like Janet could say, "I can't physically operate a sewing machine anymore. My hands, my arthritis, I've got shakes or something. Like I can't do that." Right? Like there's that. That's a good
Mm,
conflict. The the other conflicts that you can explore is, well, what if Janet is very good and she knows she's good, but she still has that fear of rejection, and she used every single excuse available to never have to commit to the job.
mhm.
There's the other part, right? Like, what if that was her flaw? Her flaw is, yes, I know I'm good, and but I didn't do it because I had to raise you. And it's like, well, the subtext is not animosity to having to raise a kid. The subtext is, I'm still don't feel as good as I am that I could have done this job. There's something inside me that's saying I can't do this job. I shouldn't be doing this job, or what have you.
Yeah, like, did you leave the work because you had me, or did you leave the work because you had imposter syndrome or something like
Something like
that?
that.
Where
Exactly.
you know, because you felt like, and this would, I mean, I'm not a fanboy of this view, but like, yeah, maybe in that era when it was harder for women to be in the workplace, maybe she did have imposter syndrome about whether she was really up to that, and it was an easy out.
Yeah.
Like, because it said that she was ready to, they were going to make her like a director.
They were going to make her a
And it
director.
was,
That they called her back after like 2 or 3 years, and then the call stopped
yep.
coming. And it's like, yeah, there's. I mean, listen, if that's true, if they were calling her every year saying, "Hey, are you ready to come back? Can you come back?" It's like that they really want you, and the only reason you'd turn that down is something to what?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm not the only reason, but the reason to have her turn that down is something worth exploring, because that's makes our character more interesting and we're more involved with. And
Exactly. And I think, and that's where
and then
you get
so
a more natural, again, natural conflict that's organic, that's real.
and then pairing that up with her being put into a youthful body again, which is still an imposter syndrome of force, you now brought that more to
Mm.
life. And now it's like, well, every time Janet is walking down the street and maybe guys are looking at her and giving her compliments, she's like, what the heck are they? Oh, yeah, I'm right. I'm young again. Oh, geez, I keep forgetting that. Because deep down, she has to still feel like she's an old lady in some cases and still behave like that. And I don't think we get enough scenes exploring that contrast of the elderly in a youthful body. Now, some people out there might be listening to this and thinking, well, what about the show Landman, where you have Ali Carter's, whatever her name is,
Ali Larder, I
or
think,
Ali
is the
Larder's
right.
character is volunteering at the old folks' home and just getting them drunk, taking them to strip joints and casinos, and they're just having a fun time. Well, there's not a well. You can that has a little bit more authenticity to it because they spend so little time with the actual elderly people. It's just they're doing actions and they're just enjoying themselves. And they'll have a couple of lines about how much fun they're having, but it's really just Ali Larder's character doing something because they need something for her to do, as opposed to being a hot wife that goes to the gym every day. Like that's literally what it is. But there's some potential going on there, because the contrast is, well, if you're at a continuing care center in your old folks home, how do you occupy the time? How do you make those final years enjoyable? And sadly, in many continuing care centers throughout, especially the United States, that I have some friends who have their parents in there. Everything is all soft, docile, opposite of stimulating, and it feels like it doesn't feel like the people there are treated like adults, but it almost feels like it's a nursery where they're treated like children, and like it's nap time and time for your feeding and time for your medication, and then we gotta change your bed sheets, because you had an accident, and it's not, yeah, it just does not feel like it's the way most people want to go out, and there's there's an interesting contrast there, and
Yeah, what's the term? It's infantilizing, I
yes,
think, right? Yeah.
infantilizing. Thank you. And so, like, in the Next Stop to Heaven, we don't really have that because we still have activities. Like they're going out into the pool, they're playing with pool noodles.
Mm-hmm.
There's attractive people around that the old ladies and old men are oogling at. We know that they're having sex with each other all the time. We know that it's very high schooly because you got like, the wallflower crowd, the cool people, the normies, and then you got the one person nobody likes. And I'm like, okay, well, this seems fairly enjoyable. I mean, for guys like you and me, when we hit our 80s, we could still be streaming, and it wouldn't change. We'd just be doing it a lot more often because we'd have a lot more time and a lot less responsibilities. But we could still be on the internet streaming, having fun, with conversations or whatever new technology comes out at that point. So we have something different in store for our future. So what with this one here, it's like, well, where do you give us the contrast for, aside from the absence of youth, for women like Janet, Nina, and Kay to desire more agency and freedom? Like, I mean, if this nursing home was very restrictive, didn't allow many visitors, you're on a strict schedule,
I mean,
you couldn't have fun.
In fact,
I can totally understand wanting to be 20 again.
They make a point of like they're even friendly with the director, where the director and these older women are both sharing their crush on
the nurse,
the dude.
Yeah, Nurse Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's again like it's about contrasting environments in order for the the thing that you want, right? Part of the hero's journey is the world I'm living in right now is not fulfilling the ambitions I have, and I want to leave, but there are obstacles around here that are preventing me from leaving, and you need to either overcome those obstacles or have another character help you hop over that fence, so to speak, to get out of the village and then to see the world, and then be faced with how different and challenging it is, and trying to survive along the way. And in doing so, it allows you to then freely return and leave your original world at your own choices, because you have now overcome the very obstacles you faced prior. Again, it's all about the contrast. Like, the nursing home was fine, didn't seem too oppressive or in any way that I could find out here. They get to their 20s, and now they're like, okay, what are we going to do? Drugs, sex, and now crime. And then you have this subplot, which is a very weak subplot, which is Janet bumps into her daughter, who runs an art gallery. Her granddaughter. Her granddaughter, sorry, runs an art gallery by a guy described as Danny DeVito, but a jerk. Okay. Again, crutches on things that are distracting. And of course we get an aspect here where her boss is saying, why is this white wall not the same color as this white wall? And Heidi's saying, well, because the gray wall in the middle causes a different, a weird perspective here, and it's a proper visual trick with the color registry index for the human eye. And this is also something that we learned in film school about editing and color timing and all that stuff, that, you can have this really cool concept where you can have two colors, top and bottom, and then you can do a gradient blend to have something a little bit darker in the middle. And then it looks like these two colors are different colors from the top and the bottom when they're not. It's a really cool trick in processing of how light alters colors and how you can correct that. But we find out that Heidi has some expertise in this nature, and even though she provides the explanation to her boss, of course, just physically abuses her by putting paint on her face. And it's like, wow, even today in California, you do that, you're getting arrested and sued for assault and battery. I think it's quite hysterical that that wasn't explored as an option. But so Janet has this interest in Heidi, which is fine, I guess it's plausible, but I don't know, it just seems disassociated to the regrets that Janet was giving us in the first act. Like, she sees her granddaughter, and her granddaughter's at a job that she likes with a boss that she hates, and the boss has withheld her, like, what, $50,000 or so of commission
54,000.
54,000 of commission sales. And so that's why she's taking his abuse, because he owes her that money and she's not doing
By the
anything
way,
to get
this
it.
is this is allegedly in California. Let me tell you about the employment laws available and how there's no effing way
Yeah, I know.
that she would not be able to just destroy this man
She would own
in
the
a
gallery in
legal
his
scenario.
home if he
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah, like the a labor attorney would get on it so fast because that 54,000 would turn into like 2 million immediately.
Yeah. And so we get these little bits and pieces here, and then Kay gets introduced to Molly and gives a whole bunch to herself and Janet. And then for 3 days, we get a quick montage. They wake up in their hotel room after the drugs have worn off. Nina is fine. She's been watching the whole time, I guess. And Janet and Kay have realized that 3 days have passed. There's an hourglass that has like an Alexa function, and it's, of course, in the voice of Dame Judi Dench, because low-hanging fruit humor, for whatever reason.
Yeah, like oh yeah, she does all our voices. It's like,
Yeah,
come
it's
on.
like, why not Maggie Smith? If you want to go British and old. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, you have this magic hourglass that tells them how much time is left, and also can't be destroyed by any living person, any mortal. So they can throw it around all they want; it's never going to break. And then so they realize they just lost 3 days to a drug-induced bender of sex. However, they don't get hung over because it's part of their contract, which makes me wonder. It's like, well, if you don't get hung over and you're able to enjoy the drugs, shouldn't you be a little bit more conscious about what's going on over the next 3 days instead of having like an essential blackout?
They kind of go back and forth when and I hate when this happens in a lot of movies where the ill effects are there when you need it for the plot, but they are not there when you don't need,
when you're setting it up or anything. Yeah,
when you need it to not be there. It's
Yeah, the only joke they have for the orgy for Nina is that while the orgy is taking place, Nina takes off her bra, looks around, and then puts it back on.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. Then we also, then the other part too, we have this little side piece where Margaret goes back to the nursing home to check in on Janet, and so Death Brenda pops in, grabs Janet, takes her back to the nursing home where she becomes old again, and says, pretend to be asleep so that I can keep your kid out of here, and then I'll take you back to the hotel. And
which makes no sense in the context of we have grand reality warping powers apparently.
Yeah.
But I need to have you pretend to be sleepy so your daughter doesn't catch on.
Which, yeah.
I
don't get it.
No, it's like, because they not even, what is it? Well, I guess I don't know, when we didn't discuss where a cutoff point would be.
Cutoff point's going to be really close towards the end. I'll say it's going to go when the cutoff point will be like when Death decides to collect.
Okay, so then later. All right, yeah. So the part of the contract that they there's a part of the contract they misread,
mm-hmm.
where people don't remember them
after the day,
next day after they interact. So we are talking like on a grand scale, like people will completely forget that they even interacted, to the point where they had sex with them, did drugs with them, committed crimes with them,
mm-hmm.
spent thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of dollars with them, and they completely forget it. But we're worried that we have to bring her in so her mom can see her sleeping. So we can completely F people's entire world and change reality. But somehow this is a problem.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't fit.
No, it's peculiar. I think the logic that they're trying to work with is that as they're young, the stuff they do as they're young has no effect on the memories of the people they interact with, although actions still occur. It's just like they did the stuff, but now they just don't remember the people that were there when they did it. And I'm like, okay, well they do tease this as with setups here. For instance, like there's a moment where Janet talks to Heidi as she's young. And then that's where they meet Ryan Gosling and get invited to his yacht. And then the next day they go there, and then Janet kind of has to reintroduce herself to Heidi. But Heidi has this very logical excuse. It's like, oh, sorry, when I saw Ryan Gosling, I kind of blacked out because he was the only thing I was looking at, so I apologize. But that's really just kind of the first breadcrumb of like, yeah, they don't remember them from the previous day. And then we also have another clue of that with Alan, the concierge, where every time they go by him, he's like, "Hi, ladies. There's my lovely ladies, etc., etc. Hey, do you want to go to these? We have these tickets to the place Shuck." And you just get the sense that he just sees a lot of people all the time, and he just offers them the same thing because that's his job to do. But no, he generally can't remember who they were, and we get that payoff a little. We get that payoff a little bit later when they commit the crime, and they commit the crime. Then Janet gets invited to her mom's birthday party that's happening that afternoon after they committed the crime. Janet then reveals to Margaret, her daughter, that she is her mother. And then they try to make amends and stuff. And Margaret's like, okay, I have to process this. Can you come back tomorrow? And Janet's like, yeah. And so she comes back tomorrow, and Margaret doesn't recognize her. And that's when they realize that, they're not.
By the way, the making amends for people in the chat was her mother first doing the standard thing that you get where she shares a memory that only her mother would know.
Right.
And that's so that gives the believability. And then her apology is, I'm sorry that I felt guilty about not going back to work because I took care of you. I should have gone back to work, and I should have had it all. She actually pardon me.
That's okay.
She actually says that her apology is, I should have had it all and worked and raised you.
Yeah.
Like, it is one of the most arrogant, stupid things I've ever seen put in print.
Yeah.
Because I have an 11-year-old, and I'm trying to teach him like certain core concepts. So he's like, I want to play with my friends, but I want to do this. And I was like, well, you can do one or the other. There is with something called opportunity cost, right? If you want to do one thing, you can do it, but it means you have lost the opportunity to do the other thing. And there's nothing wrong with that, because one of the other things might be what you wanted to do, but you don't feel bad later because you chose based on what you thought was right, to do this thing. And it's a crazy concept to just put in the context of like playing with your friends versus doing something else. But I think for me as a parent, I'm doing this because I want him to start thinking now so that he's not doing stupid stuff like this later.
Yeah.
where he's like, I can have it all. I'm like, no, there's some things where and it's perfectly fine to just do one thing. Opportunity cost is a natural state of the world. If you do one thing, you can't always do the other, and you don't need to feel guilty about it.
And that's a far better way to do it than what Uncle Owen says, which is you can waste time with your friends later. It's exactly, like, because again, you're devaluing what is important from the perspective of a kid with a lot fewer responsibilities than what they're eventually going to have as an adult. Because I used to do this with my godkids all the time. It's like,
yeah, which is a much different and better message than what this script is saying, where I feel bad because there should be no opportunity cost for me being a strong woman. I should have been able to be a director at a fashion whatever place, which probably requires, by the way, from what I can see from people who do this on television and other things, this sometimes is like a 12 to 14 hour a day kind of job.
Right.
To be the director of a creative place where you're doing fashion lines, and maybe not 24/7, maybe not every week of the year, but when you're getting a line together, as it were, those months when you're putting it together, you are like checked out. You're focusing on that job and the craft and overseeing the crafting and all the rest of it. So no, you would not have been able to have it all. You would have technically been a mother who had a child, but the time you spent raising the child who cares enough about you to go to your retirement home and make sure you're feeling okay and that everyone's taking care of you, you don't get that child if you're checked out. I mean, go listen to fucking Cat's Cradle.
Yeah.
Like if you teach your child that what you care about is work, they will internalize that and and treat you that way later in life. There is a reason that it's a well-known thing that a female child tends to become the caregiver for the elderly parent
Hmm.
because it's some of these roles that we pattern. So she taught her daughter to care about her family, and thus she is getting the benefit of it in her elder years.
And doesn't like
So
it.
and she's somehow and she's mad about, like,
Yeah.
there is later in the script there is something where I think, and I don't know whether the writers really meant for this to be as truthful as it was, where they were criticizing you. They're like, you're mad because your family visits you. You'd be mad if your family didn't visit you. You just want to be mad.
Hmm.
And it was like, that is the truest statement about this character
Yes.
that there is. She just wants to be upset about something. If she had made the other choice, she'd be upset about having made that choice.
Pretty much. I mean, it'd be a lot different. Like, because I can bring in an interesting revelation. Because one of my good friends who we met when we were adults, but like I got to meet his family because we had big parties and stuff for a project we were working on. So everybody kind of came, and friends and family. And so yeah, he was yeah, he is still. He's an only child, and his mom stayed at home, but his mom didn't raise him. Like, his mom just watched television all day, and he had to take care of himself. And then when he graduated college and started working in entertainment, his mom would then complain about how she gave up all of her opportunities so that he could do that. And even her even her husband was like, I don't know what opportunities you're talking about. You were literally a glorified babysitter. You didn't feed him. You didn't do anything. You stayed at home and watched TV. It was a miracle Child Services didn't take our kid away because I was at work. And it just exploded into this really weird argument at this premiere. But it was fascinating because you got insights into like different types of mothers who have different types of perspectives on what their future were. And you have this one woman was delusional, who didn't hate her kid, absolutely loved him, but would do all these whataboutisms of like, I gave up this, I sacrificed this for you, when his experience, the experience of his father that her husband had, and the stuff that he had to go through, because this guy, like, he's pretty cool dude. He's engaged. We're going to his wedding this summer. I'm part of the wedding crew, the groom side of stuff. So it's pretty cool. And he's like this really competent guy because he grew up fast. He had to take care of himself quickly, and his mom was trying to take all the credit for it. And I keep on telling him, like, you got to write a story about this, about a woman who just has a kid, doesn't do anything to raise for them, and then claims that she sacrificed her future for the future of her son. And he's just like, it's too personal. And I'm like, you got to write it because it's funny. It's a very funny thing, because we have here Janet, who she's a character who apparently had a career potential for her. She gave it up for her kid, and yet became a good mom. But at the same time, I guess that's the other part. Her speech, where she talks about how she could have had it all. She also says, like, I put you through so much crap, or passed down to you stuff that I shouldn't have done to you. But I don't understand the logic of that, because Margaret seems to be like a pretty awesome person. So whatever she passed down was good. And Janet's like, it's not good. Like, I don't, because even Margaret's like, I'm lost. and then of course that segues into Janet's revelation that she's her mother, in a young body. But it doesn't make sense to Margaret as a character versus Janet as a character. Because you'd think if Janet was a mother, did sacrifice to take care of the kid, but there was that underlying animosity there, that should inform Margaret to a degree, because kids pick up that behavior, and they respond appropriately to it based on their experiences. And so you have this conflict where Margaret doesn't seem like the child that was raised by a person who had animosity towards her or regrets because of her. She behaves like a woman who is raised by a mother that taught her the skills she needs to be a very successful woman in a happy marriage with a child.
It's such a crazy disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
Again, cognitive dissonance. Like, the complaints she's making just don't hold up to scrutiny. Like, it's like, what exactly are you complaining about again?
Yeah, like, again, I'm lost with her as a character. Like, I don't get what her want is. I understand her regrets, but regrets are only part of a driving force. You still have to have a goal for that. And even like Janet apologizing to Margaret on her birthday, it's an apology that we don't have a frame of reference for, other than the fact that in her old age, Janet has been, a pain in the butt to Margaret. And it's like, I'm sorry, I've been a pain in the butt to you since I got into the home. Like, that would make more sense. But instead, it's like, no, I've been a pain in the butt your entire life. And I just didn't get a sense that was the case between these two.
No, it didn't fit. And that's why I think maybe you were right with your thought that initially it was just our two characters.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe some of these other conflicts about being a closeted person, which is what the Nina character inherited, might have been part of Janet's journey as well. Well, in the initial play, that it, because it makes more sense. Like, that's where, if in terms of just giving her a rational human reason to feel the guilt, if she blames in a weird way her husband and child for locking her into a life that wasn't her true lesbian desire dream, that there's at least some more, there's something more to springboard into the reason she's got those feelings.
Right. Oh yeah, it's not even just this. It's everything. It's basically a person who who thought she had control of her life, and then it was yanked away from her. And instead of trying to seize it back when an opportunity arrived, she just kind of let it go. And it's frustrating because there's the premise of like old people getting youth again in their 20s is juicy because you can have a lot of fun with that. Problem being is that I think in this case here, you have two writers who don't know what it's like to be old. They have an idea, they have a broad idea of it, and it's not a very detailed one. And so they're not able to have as much fun with what youth can bring to someone of that age. Like again, if these two writers, and they're in their mid-30s, I kind of verified that, or pushing 40. If these two writers were, say, the ages of Sally Field and Jane Fonda, who have lived a long life and have been around a lot, and they decided, hey...
By the way, I 100% was like Jane Fonda is who they would have playing Kay.
Yeah, but she would make it really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because Jane Fonda, despite her personal life, she is an amazing actress. But like if you had those two and said, hey, okay, ladies, sit down. All right, we know you've lived your life, and you know that you got, you got a lot of years behind you of experience and in some cases wisdom, some not so much. But if you got to live a week as a 20-year-old again with all the knowledge that you have, write a list of what you would do. And I bet they would come up with a better story, better things to do, ways for you to mine and explore than what a 35-year-old would have speculating about an old person's life and then to a young person's life. Like it doesn't work well here. Heck, my friend Paul Chato, he could write a story of like, what would you? I asked him, what would you do if you woke up and you were 20 years old again in the current day, time with all the knowledge you have, what would you do? And for him comedically, he'd probably be like, I'd go play a game of golf. But there's probably other things he would probably think about. But I can guarantee you he'd come up with a laundry list of ideas of fun things that he would do with that opportunity, and also probably some very nuanced things he'd do with that opportunity as well. But here, that this is the one thing that I think is really lacking of this script and the execution, is that there is no real nuance with Janet, Nina, or Kay with the actions that they're doing in their youth, with their youth. Like, Janet is just kind of inserting herself into Heidi and Margaret as her younger self, then saying I'm sorry, and what's that supposed to mean to us as an audience? Because we're still missing more context between the relationship. And the other part too is we never get again, the regrets don't coincide with the goals for Janet. Like, why isn't the first thing Janet's doing commenting on the fashion, marching into the office that would have hired her, 60 years ago, looking at the person who did take her job and as the head of the company, and then just lambasting them for like turning this brand into something that is off the rack as opposed to, this really amazing high quality fashion line, right? And exploiting the knowledge that she has of that person from her youth in order to prove that Janet deserved the job and not whoever has it today, and trying to make up for that lost time. And then on top of that, finally doing the job, realizing, oh my God, this is exhausting. I'm running out of ideas. Maybe this is why I ended up becoming a mom and didn't come back here, because
the grass isn't always greener.
The grass isn't always greener. It's like this job became great at the start and then dehumanizing afterwards.
Which is the traditional way you like it when you want to make one of these movies really well, like where you give someone like the refreshing perspective. I think of something like, It's a Wonderful Life, where he gets his view. I think of, even in a more recent context, a very underrated movie that I actually really enjoy, which is called The Family Man with Nick Cage.
Yeah. I remember that movie.
Where he lived his life, where he made the choice to go work, to be the high-powered executive, and the opportunity cost was that he broke up with the love of his life from college. They didn't end up together, and so when he gets his view of what the world was, he's not a high-powered executive. He's running a tire store, but he's got beautiful children. He's got who love him. He's got a wife who loves him. He starts to see that this simple, like in his mind, simple life where he was a quote family man was way more fulfilling than having a penthouse and all this corporate power.
Yeah.
That's something like, how cool would it have been in this script if part of her like redo was getting to run a fashion like house and finding out that it sucks. like there's she has success. Like, you do the moment, you work, you do your fashion line, you design it, you present it, it's hailed as a innovation and all this, and you go home to an empty house with no one there, and you've got an award in your hand, and there's just no one to share it with, no one who genuinely cares. You realize that all the people who are praising you were only praising you based on what you could do for them, not because they genuinely appreciated you as a person. And thinking about maybe sewing a costume for a child, my daughter, for her Halloween, for her school play, was way more fulfilling, because my child was genuinely in love with the thing I made for her and treasured it, than any of this other stuff. That would be a great message. That would be letting someone, give them, here, have your cake. Eat it. I think it's something like Bedazzled, which is another kind of take on Making the Deal with the Devil. With that one was with Brendan Fraser and
is that Bedazzled?
Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah.
And he keeps getting all these versions of the life he thinks he wants. And he sees, because obviously the devil is always trying to screw you. that these are all like getting what I say I want isn't what I really want.
Right.
And I, like what I thought I wanted was really wrong. Like coming to the, like self-actualization is such like some as silly as when the way they do it in Scott Pilgrim. You're fighting for the power of love, you die. You're fighting for your own self-respect, you win. Like,
Yeah.
like it's do it for the right reasons, not the wrong ones, and you're in a much better place. But I think you're right that it takes writers maybe with some more life experience
Or at
to
least
kind
effort just
of
to
do that.
learn what they're talking about. I mean, that's the other part too. Like again, we all have limited life experience, to a point. But if you're a writer and you have an idea for a story that you think is juicy, you don't rely solely on your own life experience. You seek out information to fill the gaps that you have. I mean, that's what you do. I've written stories about old people. What I did, well, I drew upon my fortunate experience having worked at a continuing care center. I also have people that still work at various ones, and I reach out to them. I'm like, hey, I want to listen to some stories from people at your residence. And guess what? They're really happy to share those stories because someone is there to talk with them that's not a family member. So all the stories that their family have heard over and over again are brand new to me. And I relish in those things. They're fantastic. I have a couple of colleagues in my company that are like a retirement age. And they love talking to me about various parts of their history and the stuff that they've done. And I'm just like soaking it up like a sponge because this is good stuff. Like I could use this in the future somewhere. And I've got a great point of view from that person about it. And I've got all the notes from them about that. And on top of that, it's like, oh, I can draw on something and I can make this more authentic because I've got a firsthand account of what that the anecdotes of that person at that time. And there's something there to that. In this case here, I don't know. Part of me wonders, like, were these two girls, like, they're locked down for the pandemic. They binge watched Golden Girls, The Good Place, and The Office, and 30 Rock, and then said, hey, let's do a 2-hour comedy of old people becoming young again. And then they just were huddled around their laptops writing these pages for a year.
Should have gone and watched like I said, I think before the show they should have watched something like Cocoon.
Yeah,
Like,
Cocoon's a great example.
like see one of the great movies about like life affirming journeys for people who are elderly. Like
Yeah.
how do you put that on film? Like how do you really address the like people feeling, invigorated and youthful again and in a way that's authentic. I'll use their word since they like using authentic so much.
Well, I mean, they use it completely devoid of what they should be. Like, I use it because it's like, oh, that's something I strive to be. They use it as like, we're making this authentic. Based on what? Oh, like we're not lying about it. It's like, well, you're making up fiction. Like, what do you mean by like, what do you mean by authentic? Do you have a definition of what that is? Do you know how
I'm gonna
to
be
capture
my
that?
authentic self.
Yes. It's like, okay, what does that mean? And they have a very simplistic view of it, where it's, again, nothing about human nature, human beings is simple. And that's what makes our stories so interesting. And these characters here are pretty simple. And the fact that we can talk so much about other things in the script shows that the story plot points between these three women for pretty much 100 pages is very thin. It's very compartmentalized, and it's not like sketches, but it feels like it's got a little bit of a structure like that.
Vignettes, almost
Vignettes,
like just
yeah.
vignettes, yeah.
And you don't get any type of, like, the conflict doesn't escalate until like 90 minutes in, which is far too late in the story, when they finally realize that all the people they've interacted with don't remember anything. And they do have that one scene where they go to rob the $54,000 from Heidi's boss, and they end up like shooting him in the leg with a mini harpoon
With a harpoon,
gun.
like a harpoon gun, which is
And then again, they do that. They pull this joke where they did not establish the tone that this would be the type that does that, where Kay like pulls out the mini harpoon gun, and the other character's like, where were you hiding that? Because it just magically appears. And
yeah.
the thing is, you have to establish a tone that happens. You can't just do that an hour and a half into your movie. Like, the brilliance of a show like 30 Rock is that right off the bat, it tells you this is a fantasy satire about writing a sketch show at a corporation where the head of for the sketch show itself, not the writer, but the head of the network, doesn't care about television. He cares about just getting to the top of the corporate ladder. And there are weird things coming in here. Like, he's so rich, he's so powerful, he's so influential, just things happen. And then you find out that everybody kind of has access to this, but there's a tier list of how it works out. Where like it goes from the top of the company with Jack Donaghy, played by Alec Baldwin, where he can get the office renovated within an afternoon and it looks completely different. And you're like, well, that's miracle work. And then you also have the concierge, like played Jack the concierge, who, no, not Jack. What is his name? Jordan? I can't remember.
I thought it was
Kenny, Kenny, this concierge, where like he's got things prepared for the talent around him, like it's just in his jacket or it's behind his desk or something, and he's able to anticipate their needs no matter how obscure they are, and that's how it works out. It's like Jane comes, the blonde chick, Jane comes in, she says, I need this, and the concierge is like, I already have this, and then you're like, why would you have that? It's like, well, she's asked for weird things all the time, so I've learned to, like, you get they establish the tone. Here, they don't establish this tone at all. Like, they've never established that Kay just has access to things or is prepared for things around her to do this type of stuff. Like, it's an out of left field gag that doesn't fit into the tone of the story. So yeah, she pulls out the harpoon gun, she shoots him in the leg because he got LASIK surgery, so he can't see, and then they run off with a cookie jar full of $100 bills. They give it to Heidi. Even though she doesn't remember that happening, she does happen to have the cookie jar full of bills. And I'm thinking, like, you know, if this guy gets assaulted in his home, the police are definitely going to investigate, and then they're going to look at the people that he's associated with, and then they're going to see Heidi, and then they're going to eventually find out that she has a cookie jar of her boss's possession that has a bunch of cash in there, and they're going to speculate and then form a case that she assaulted her boss while he was blinded. And then she's going to be in trouble. That would have made also another interesting story. How do you save your granddaughter from a crime she didn't commit that you committed in a world where after the moon, the sun has set and then risen again, everybody forgets that you were there.
Yep, and it's like, how can you take the blame if they won't even remember that you came in and confessed to it?
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of a complicated problem.
Yeah. It's ripe for an interesting premise. But yeah, so after they realize that they can't be remembered, they complain to Death Brenda. Death Brenda says, yeah, it's in this contract here. Nothing you can do about it. And then they're on their last day, and, you know, Brenda shows up and says, hey, yeah, it's the time has run out, and there's a few sparkles left in the hourglass. But she's there to say, okay, your souls are mine. I'm taking over. Here's the other missed opportunity. They didn't distinguish the fact that when Death collects the souls and that they're hers, what does that actually mean? Because when you cross over, your soul goes to wherever your destination is, right? But now Death Brenda has them. So, like, what are the rules? I'm curious about the rules there, because that gives us
they don't
stakes,
explain why reaping early is of a benefit.
other than possibly getting promotion. But are
But
souls
why
like
would
Pokemon?
it be something that generates a promotion? Yeah, like does it give them an energy boost? Like, what is the rationale for why getting a soul early? Because we see later, not to jump past our cutoff point, we do see they get to a final destination in terms of the very last bit of the script, like that's described. So what was the point of doing it early, and why was it beneficial to the Reapers?
I don't know, but I'm thinking like a good idea would be, what if the Reapers reaping early and collecting the souls, it's like a pyramid scheme. Like, I collect your souls, then now you're a Reaper, and the souls that you collect, I get, and then I kick those up to the person above me, like, you know, in order to get promotions, kind of like those Amway scams.
Oh yeah, that would.
If that was happening in Death, that'd be kind of funny.
I mean, it's a fun take on it, at least. You know, like,
it also gives motivation, right? It's like, so how do I get promoted? How do I get to the top tier where I don't have to work and I'm just like delegating to all these other plebs beneath me? Oh, I have to collect souls and then assign them to be Reapers for other people, and then I don't have to do it anymore. Oh, okay. that would be funny. You've got a pyramid scene, and then you have a great commentary about the afterlife. Like, yeah, like there's nothing positive about it. It's all a scam or something. It's all someone's just always trying to screw you in any type of form of existence that you participate in. But no, like again, we don't have those types of thoughts put on the page for this type of script. But yeah, like our cutoff point is like, okay, so the three women, they have a few seconds left. Reaper's there to come take them over, and for me, I'm like, I don't care, because what are I can't identify the stakes. It's like their lives don't exist as stakes because they're already of an advanced age, and they accepted that they're going to die anyways. Like, I mean, heck, Jenna is like praying to die essentially for the first act of the film, of the script, so she's ready to go, and there's no desire from the others, from any of them, to be like, no, I want to live longer. Like, it's not there. I mean, because that's the other part. Like, even with Cocoon, people are like, yeah, my time's up, but I wish I just had more years, more time, more energy. And then they do, and it comes with a great, sacrifice of the alien species, that whose energy they were absorbing. But I mean, they understood the consequences of like how the youth that they got in Cocoon was at the expense of an innocent youth somewhere else, right? And they realized like, oh, wow, we should have been more appreciative of what we had before we just came back here to have more fun again. And it's got a great guilt trip message at the end, but also a good satisfying ending as well. But yeah, so that's the thing. Like, this script I'm surprised it got as high as it did on the blacklist. Like, I don't even think this should have made the list, because the jokes are very few and far between.
It is I guess, to get to like pass or if we want to get to there. Obviously, I think we've made it clear we're probably both strong passes on this one. I definitely am. I'm a pass. This reads like a first draft that needs a lot of work, like from conception to maybe production. If you wanted to make it this needs to either be stretched out to maybe a streaming show where you can let each character relive a youthful thing for a while, where you can really let them breathe to get the old monkey's paw of what you wished for wasn't good, to also give a lot more space to what the mechanics are of the Grim Reapers, and why are they reaping things early? Why is there promotion? What is the mechanics of that? It's just a cluster. Like, there's so many things wrong with it. There's a lot, there's directions you could go with some of these concepts to make workable stuff, but you kind of have to decide what you're going to do and commit to it. And I definitely, just from this reader's perspective, the messaging on some of the like main through lines for what is supposed to carry the story about the moral choices of the characters were terrible, and I don't think would resonate with a large enough audience to justify production anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry to say, I agree with you. I was pulling for this script because I was like, I like comedies, and I like people that strive to be comedic, because it's a hard genre to do, and a lot of people are afraid of it. But no, I have to give this a pass, because it's a very thin, undercooked execution of a very potentially fun concept. I mean, the only positive I can give to it is like, I see the seeds planted. I would like it if they were nourished so that they could grow into something good. I mean, we spent nearly 3 hours talking about this script and throwing out very nuanced takes on the situations that these characters are in, and what areas of exploration a story like this could tell. And sadly, this script itself is a very vacuous product, essentially. It feels like a product. It's just, okay, we got 3 hot women, and they're going to exercise a bunch of vices just for the sake of doing so. And there's no lessons really learned. The ending is uh, lackluster. It's not very clever. And it's also like there's no. I think they're trying to have a Han Solo event with the way that they did the ending, but there was nothing to there was nothing to set up that
To earn it?
possibility to
Yeah.
make it earned. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it's earned in no way, shape, or form.
yeah, it just really was. It was really disappointing for that part because I will say the gimmick used for the ending perfectly acceptable. The problem is that the character that does it, you don't get a sense of that's what they're trying to do. That they would be the ones to make that decision or be the ones to facilitate that twist, that payoff. And yeah, I mean it's a disappointment, but we'll check in. We'll check in with the audience now over on the Patreon. The audience members over there are in agreement with us. They voted 100% to pass on Old Souls. For the live audience right now, people are still kind of voting in. So if you are listening and you're able to access the poll, please hit that as soon as possible. We'll follow that up. But in the meantime, we have a very gracious donation from Sagacious Six of $10. Thank you so much, Six, for the $10 donation. It's very appreciated. It's got an emoji of a mutant lemon human being thing shaking some maracas around, which looks new and is very adorable. Looks pretty great. So we'll just let that poll another moment or so. One of the things that when you're dealing with a concept like this, which is essentially a Faustian bargain, you got to give our characters stakes. What is at stake for this? The whole idea of like offering something, temptation comes with a want and a goal. And the wants and goals have to be something far more have far more connectivity with the audience or the potential audience than just, wow, I'm old, my feet, everything it hurts, I wish it didn't hurt anymore. Okay, good start. Question is, all right, once you then have to speculate, okay, what if you were granted that wish where nothing hurt anymore and you're still alive? What do you do? Right? It's not enough that everything hurts, because even some of the old people that I've encountered with, some of my family members and some that were not, when the reason that they say everything hurts is because they're trying to do something and they want to do something. And it's like, well, if that's their goal, that's their objective, I understand the obstacle they're facing. They've got pain. They want to do something. They want to either go swimming, they want to go for a walk, they want to pick up and play with their grandkids, but everything hurts. Well, there's your goal right now. I'm going to grant you this wish. Nothing's going to hurt. What are you going to do? I'm going to go I'm going to do something fun with my grandkids. I want to keep up with my grandkids. It's something great. Now you got a goal there. And if they pursue that, now you play in the extra the conflicts. Well, what comes with, going to the public park or playground and playing with your grandkids? Well, now you got schoolyard or grandkid yard politics, that you have to deal with, that you used to deal with as a parent. And then you're like, oh, I remember this crap. Other parents coming in, hey, what are you doing with my kid? It's like, I'm not doing anything with your kid. Why is your kid throwing sand in my kid's face? Ugh, they're children, leave them alone. All of those types of stuff. There's your next phase of obstacles come up with, and you can have fun with that. But you really need to showcase, it's not just enough about the complaining of why it sucks to be old. It's also asking, like, what advantages would a person of that age have if they could be young again, and what would they do? And it can't just be sex, drugs, and crime. I mean, granted, don't get me wrong, there's going to be some old people that'll have that. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with exploring it. But if you're giving us a set of 3 characters, and one has regret about, not being a fashion tycoon, show us them trying to be a fashion tycoon. Let them see how difficult that is compared to the life that they had, and let them have a better frame of reference about the life they had versus the life they want. That's what, as you said earlier, the grass is always greener. I mean, that's those stories are fun. Okay, so let's see here. So the poll has run its course, and we have 75% of the audience voted pass, 25% voted green, but they voted that because green is their favorite color. So, all right, that's fair enough. But yeah, that's this case here. So my message to these two women who've written the script, which is, first of all, celebrate that you got on the blacklist. That is a great achievement, regardless of our opinions on the script. That's still something very good to have. Next part is, what are you going to do now that you've got this? Are you going to use this script as your standard, your boilerplate type of thing to get more writing gigs, or are you going to seek out other criticisms and other supporting factors of the work that you have to be better? Take the advice that we got, that we provided here, the suggestions that we have, and hopefully become give us something that's really great as a follow up. Because I'm not really. This script wasn't so horrible that I wouldn't want to ever read anything from these two again. That's not the case. We've definitely read scripts far worse than this. I just feel like this is such a good concept that should have had so much more to it for a script that's about 119 pages. That's just my take. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Any final thoughts from you, Chad, before we wrap up this epic of a screen?
Yeah, it's again, there's some threads that you could pull on and do that. I think you've got to as a writer to not be so rigid that you can't learn from maybe some criticisms. It's fine to have a viewpoint. I get why it would be easy to disregard what I was saying from a criticism standpoint. But that's fine. Have your viewpoint, but structurally make it more entertaining. Like I've said before, like I see a movie like Sinners, I completely disagree with a lot of what I probably think are Ryan Coogler's viewpoints, but it was masterfully done the way he wove his points into that storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate that, and I can say I disagreed with some of the concepts and maybe story points he was making, but I think from a coherent script and entertaining movie perspective, he did excellent.
Yeah,
that's what I like. I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't make, if you are 100% committed to the worldview that would it be better that this woman worked instead of just being a stay-at-home mom, allegedly. Take the time to tell that story in a way that is compelling.
Yeah.
And not bad. That's what I would say. Like, take that criticism to heart. Like, if you disagree with if they're listening and they disagree with some of the other takes, it's, yeah, fine. You can instead of just disregarding me as somebody who, from a political standpoint, doesn't agree with you, go the other direction, prove me wrong, and make a compelling story with that point is what I would challenge them.
And it can be done. And it has been done. So, and that's a great challenge to have. Because, I mean, listen, that's one of the things I love doing. I won't just write a story that, promotes solely my point of view. I'll look for the best counter arguments to that. And then I like exploring those. Because sometimes my point of view might change, or sometimes I might find new avenues that help support my point of view, and then other times I might find new avenues to help support the countering point of view, and it's fun to explore. I really like that because there's a lot of creativity to that. And in a script like this, I think the premise of a woman that regrets not having the career, like the inverse of The Family Man, can be done, and it can be done in a way that definitely connects to people. And I know some people who when they became empty nesters and they came home and to an empty house, there was nothing that they said was but a sigh of relief. And it's been 15 years, and I still every once in a while say, "Do you still get happy when you come home to an empty house?" He's like, "Yes." And it's like, "Well, what happens when your kids visit?" He's like, "I'm very happy when they visit, but I'm not disappointed when I come home to an empty home. I'm just happy that I've got peace for the first time in my day. I'm like, okay, that part I can kind of understand. But, you know, he's an exception. He's not the rule. But that you can have fun with those types of points of view as well. Like, even for myself, if I come home to an empty home, I'm happy. If I come home to, you know, my girlfriend here or friends over, I'm still happy. Like, I'm not bothered with either one. I'm pretty content either way. But if you are someone who's like, yeah, that the chaos, there's good chaos and bad chaos, and some people have different perspectives of what that means. And for a story like this, it's like, okay, show us why we should empathize with a woman like Janet, and make the regret feel like something that should have been pursued as opposed to abandoned. That's an interesting story. You don't need Kay and you don't need Nina in this. You can make it a single. And I think that might go a lot further with this concept. But, you know, by and large, most blacklist scripts don't always get produced like Madden. So
that's true. So, I would say especially, that point, Kay and Nina are kind of
superfluous,
unnecessary characters. Like, you could roll in some of their, if you enjoy some of the point, like, you could roll that into just Janet.
Right. Absolutely. And so that's our coverage. That's our huge returning to form episode. We did not expect to go 3 hours, but heck, it was fun, and it did fly by fast for me. I don't know how about you, sir.
Oh, it did. Yeah. I mean, I think it was pent up because we were supposed to do this one a few weeks back, so it had more time to marinate. So to speak.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, it was sitting with me longer, and it just, you know, sometimes that's not good when if it was a better one, I would have been happier. Like, I look back, you know, speaking of comedy, was it that Santa one with I forget where it was the Santa convention, then he goes home with his girlfriend and they were doing the fights. That
oh yeah, the Home for Holiday. Yeah.
The Home for Holidays.
Yeah.
I was like, that one. That's the comedy. That comedy was good.
Yeah, the whole town is beating each other up during Christmas. Yeah, that was like Santa boxing or something of that nature, right? Yes. That one had its moments too, and it also had its flaws, but it definitely had a lot more comedy going for it because, again, fish out of water part, the normality of the entire town beating each other up, and then you have the hierarchy of the people running the town, and then, you know, the normal girl that he meets and falls in love with. Again, it covers all the staples of those types of movies. And I say this to all screenwriters out there. There's nothing wrong with following cliche formula. What's wrong is not doing anything fun with it. That's what's wrong. Like, cliches exist because they're reliable and they're useful. But cliches become tiresome if they're not done creatively, where they feel so cliche as opposed to you saying, oh, that's funny. Oh, wait a minute, that's a cliche. Like, you want to have the after effect of like, oh, that's a cliche. They did it in a way that I didn't quite register instantly because they're having fun with it. And, you know, the classic cliche is the hero beats the villain. That's your classic cliche. And it's done in such a variety of ways across, gosh, like I was trying to do the legitimate math of how many movies have been made since film has actually been existing, like movies that have been like produced and distributed around the world, and it's over 1 million at least. Like, it's a lot. There's more content out there than we have a lifetime to digest. So, I mean, the thing is, you have that many movies, only a percent of them are good and will be forever, you know, preserved, especially in the Library of Congress and other libraries from other countries around the world. But that's it. So you have to realize, like, when you're writing something and you're trying to be different in a creative aspect, but don't throw away I'm not saying throw away, like, always be cliches, but I'm saying if a cliche presents itself as a solution to your story, don't run away from it. Don't
be afraid of it.
Yes. Yeah. Don't run away from it. Lean into it and find a way to do it differently, so that when you solve the problem of your story, and two, it might be a calling card within your script that makes it really travel around and ideally get produced.
you as a screenwriter, you're more likely to be remembered for coming up with a unique and fun twist on a cliche in terms of just playing the odds than somehow cracking the super unique screenwriting code and to find a new
Yes.
way of like a completely new story, right?
Yeah.
You're much more likely to be able to just be, to find a good way to do a twist on a cliche that people enjoy than you are to somehow, at this point in filmmaking, go like completely off the reservation and blow people away with something they've never seen before.
Well, it goes
And
back to the
with
KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Like, you want to reinvent the wheel? No. But if you want to reinvent the hubcap, go right ahead. You know,
I look at something like the Hallmark Channel, right?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we make a joke about it because their movies are like the same 5 plot element. Like maybe there's 7 plot elements. They put it in a little shaker ball and take out 4 for each movie. Like, or is it the widowed ex-boyfriend or is it the returning to the hometown after they left?
Or
Which
is
are
it
the
the
elements?
is it the Christmas Carol thing? They get the alternate reality, and they have that detail. I mean, one of the screenplays I wrote was that type of thing. Guy gets hit by a bus, wakes up, a teenager, gets a second chance at life, does manages to win the woman that he loves over, and then when he wakes up in the hospital, the woman that he loves is there, but she's only there because she found him and called the EMTs, and she's responsible for him until they can identify who he is. and
Yeah.
then they connect, and it's like, oh yeah. And I will say the Hallmark people did like it, but they didn't like the idea of having to have a person get into a tragic bus accident.
Yeah, they like to keep it simple, stupid.
Well, they didn't want to
yeah,
horrify the audience.
exactly.
And I was like,
Like
okay,
yeah,
well,
if you're gonna do it, like yeah, my wife actually one of her favorite Christmas ones is where they get the Christmas Carol alternate reality.
Yeah, yeah.
And the way they do it is just having like someone get a little bop on the head.
oh no, that's what they asked
And-
me to do. It's like, okay, well, we can do that, but then how does it different from all the others? It's like you get a bop on the head, they're not going to wake up in a hospital exactly. Like they might break up, in a store or something while they're waiting for, first responders. It's like, no, I wanted to be really dramatic. It's like, no, you can't do it. It's like, okay, fine, do whatever you want. And they never did anything with it. They could have, like, again, I got paid, but they could have rewrote the beginning and then did the thing, and they never did.
Yeah, so I mean, know your audience too. Like if they're gonna be able to, like if you're pitching to someone like that, know what they're comfortable with, that they'll be okay. Like don't go into Hallmark Channel and pitch like we're gonna make something that's
Don't pitch an
edgy.
anti-God thing.
Yeah, like or not even Hallmark Channel, like Great American, whatever,
Oh,
the
right.
one that Candace Cameron Bure runs now.
Yeah,
like, that's don't go on that one and be like, I'm gonna have one where they find out God's dead. Nope, you're not getting picked up there.
Yeah.
You're
Oh yeah, but again, so to these writers here, just if you're gonna follow up with a rewrite of this script, I would say cut the other 2 characters, focus it on Janet, give us something really fun there, make it a month instead of a week. Although I personally do prefer constrained time frames, but if you want to do a grass is always greener on the other side type of stuff, especially when it comes to like like working in an industry, when you go from a homemaker to an industry, you need to give us a little bit more verisimilitude by giving us a month. Like a person can get hired, start working, and then making some waves in a couple of weeks, only to find how difficult it is to either continue it through or back out and appreciate what they had before, but have the regrets lifted a little bit more, so that they're not as debilitating. That could be something interesting, because I get the sense that's kind of what they were trying to do with the ending without spoiling what happens to the characters there. But that being said, man, Chad, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, right here on the YouTubes or even the Rumble if that's where you want to hang out. We do the Ascendant Art podcast on Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's available on both, so just search and you'll find our channel. It's just a fun hangout podcast. We do movie reviews, game chat, movie chat. Like trivia, all sorts of fun stuff. And I think it's a just nice way to end the week. And I can tell everybody here that our audience who's in chat seems to always have a pretty good time. And so that's the end goal, is to just have a fun, relaxing time and enjoy hanging out with everybody. So Ascendant Art podcast right here on YouTube.
That's awesome. All right. And for myself, yeah, we'll be back again next week with another script, another thing going around. We're gonna round out the last few of the 2024 blacklist scripts that we have, because I'm still finishing up sorting out the schedule for the 2025 blacklist scripts, and it's a smaller list than the previous year, which is kind of nice. It shows a little bit more scrutiny over who makes the list or not. And so be sure to check us out there. Be sure to check us out on Patreon, where I'll be posting a couple more. I posted a few articles already about the misconception of entertainment being how do I want to put it? An escapism as opposed to its actual value, plus a little bit of commentary on how to enrich some characters. I'll also be posting another one that's kind of a follow-up to this script about the difference between scenes and situations when it comes to a premise of a story. So if you want to be able to support us over there, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us live here on the channel. For the patrons out there, really appreciate your support as well. And remember, when you do sign up for the Patreon, you do find out what script we are going to be reading on the show. You also get to vote and leave a comment that we'll use to discuss on the show about the script, because we always like those nuanced takes that people have. With that being said, have a great rest of your weekend, everybody out there listening. And we'll catch you all on the next one, because remember, guys, when it comes to great story, it all starts with the script.